Jason, welcome. And do you want a couple minutes just to kind of introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Should I just walk up or do you want me to do it on my laptop? Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yep, you're
Okay.
good.
All right, awesome. But yeah, so hey everyone, thanks again, everyone that's been scheduled one-on-one with me already and has met. It's been awesome to get to know you guys. I'm looking forward to continue to meet you. I know some of you have messaged me already, just kind of, let me know that you weren't going to be in today. So I do have, like the temporary cards for you guys. Just yeah, if you haven't messaged me, please do, and we can figure out another time to meet. I will be working downtown again Friday, like all day. So I don't know if there's either way, we can try to figure out a time to do it. I'm just trying to avoid having to run around the county dropping them off. But yeah, again, just looking forward to working with you guys. I'm just kind of sitting here for a bit and then I'll take off. But again, just excited to
Awesome. Thank you. And reminder, we tend to be pretty available for one-on-one. So if you've got any questions about curriculum or you're stuck on the code or you have questions about assignments, those are all great one-on-one topics for me. If you've got more things going on, on your life or you need some help with something or you've got any questions about the stipend and how that's going to work, Jason's the right person to hit up there. Laura is always very accessible on career coaching in terms of figuring out interviewing and figuring out what the right job titles are, where you're headed after this program. And if you don't know that yet, that's completely fine. That may manifest throughout the program, and then you may find yourself leaning on Laura a little bit more towards the end of the program. And of course, Jesse is always available for any questions about the program or logistics or anything like that. And then finally, of course, we've got our entire alumni network of students who've already gone through the program. And if you ever don't know who to reach out, I am happy to be the point person, right? We tend to be pretty good about admitting what we don't know or knowing when you may be out of our expertise. So you are totally welcome to hit me up and I can happily guide you and let you know from there. Ariel is on and is actually a student from cohort 2 and will be our TA next week. So Ariel, if you're available, you are welcome to do your intro now.
Can everybody hear me now?
You're good.
Okay, I only got muted 3 times. So I'm TA for next week. However, I was a student from cohort 2. So I know Jason firsthand, I know Max firsthand, I know Laura firsthand, all the best support system you could have. I will tell you, I know I'm not in there until next week, but if anybody needs to reach out for help, I'm here. Whether it's parking issues at the YWCA next door from Common Space, or it's to realize like imposter syndrome was a really big thing for me. I want you guys to know Max is not the end of the world. He does speed up on 2x. Things get easier. I also will tell you, he was the best person to teach me. The biggest thing I want you to take away from any of this for the cohort is it's not just code. Utilize getting a group together on Slack for all of you guys without the teachers, the TAs, the staff. Utilize that, because whether it's to bitch about like how the teachers are, whether it's to work on study groups, whether it's to do that, you will come into contact with people who will help you. It's past LinkedIn. It's so much more than that. It's actually getting forward with something that you have I apologize, there's a lot going on behind me. It's actually getting a group behind you that can help you with networking and groups like that. The biggest thing that I took away was it wasn't just development that I learned from this. It was time management. It was determination. Jesse will tell you, Max will tell you, Karen, Caitlin, anybody will tell you, Laura, Jason. I had a really hard time in cohort 2 with personal life things going on. And one of the greatest things I took from this was I learned time management. And I learned my own self-confidence from this group. As much as imposter syndrome really stuck out and kind of bit you in the ass, I also learned how much that I could put towards this. I really wanted this, and I want you guys to want this. I fully believe in this. Nobody's paying me for this. I fully believe in this program. It changed my life, whether it's just code or not. That's all I want you guys to take from this. So I apologize for rambling here. I'll let you get back, Max. I got a lot going on back here. We've got some house renovation going on. But you guys reach out to whoever you can, whether it's another student, it's another instructor, it's me, it's Max, it's Jason, it's Laura, whoever. There is always somebody to get you in the right direction for this. And the resources I got from Careers in Code far surpass any other boot camp or any other college course I've taken personally. So please, 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 please utilize it. And again, reach out to me or Max or anybody else. And that's that. I apologize. There's a lot going on behind me.
Thanks, Ariel, for that note. And you'll be seeing a lot more of Ariel next week as well as she comes in and starts TAing for us. I would open it up to any questions for Ariel, but we'll have that opportunity next week because I know she's got a lot going on tonight. Okay, so let's dive in, kick off our stand-up like we normally kick off stand-up. What did we do yesterday? What did we learn? What were our light bulb moments? What were our frustrations? What made us want to convert our Mac into Windows by throwing it out one? Where are we at?
Me, I actually got really comfortable using my Mac once I learned the shortcuts, and I honestly feel better using them. And then when I use my work computer, I kind of try to use them the same, and now I use them at work too, so it's making my typing faster.
Awesome, yeah. And believe it or not, that learning curve on adjusting to a Mac, not only is surmountable, I think, which a lot of you guys are finding, but also opens the door for future development and getting projects set up more easily, right? So we're still in kind of intro to front end dev, and we're taking it pretty easy. We have that initial road bump of figuring out how to get in my live code, right? And that's a challenge, and juggling all these windows. But as the program progresses, you're going to find there are more and more things of like, oh, we need to get a backend server running, and oh, we need to get our database server running, and oh, we've got even more windows to juggle here, right? But if anyone, gets through that and does all the setup and then tries to do it on a Windows, you'll be coming back screaming to a Mac going, oh, thank God I'm on a Mac. It was just so much easier to get all of that set up. So I know it is somewhat of a learning curve early on and hard to get set up, but all of that time investment in getting comfortable and adjusted to that Mac is going to be so beneficial later on the program when we've got to really use the entire power of the Mac to run our databases and to run everything else there. And that's all because Mac is Linux based, and that's what most of our developer tools are built in, as opposed to Windows, which it's not impossible to dev on Windows. And if you're working with a Windows heavy framework like .NET or C#, it is a little bit easier on Windows, but the vast majority of web servers are running Linux, and because the place our final code goes to run is Linux based, we benefit from our Mac being Linux based as well. So glad to hear that you guys are settling in there, and it is not, don't feel silly if you're like, I'm still struggling with my Mac, I see you using it, I know you're using it well, I can't use it like that yet. Feel free to schedule a one-on-one with me or with Ariel or with Caitlin, or shoot them a message, shoot me a message, grab time on my calendar. We'll go through it and say, all right, here are my tricks, right? Because there's so many things on the Mac where it's like, I don't even know that I'm doing it, but I'm doing it, right? So there's got to be a way I can find to teach it and get that over to you. So if you're still struggling, multiple monitors or virtual desktops or window snapping or getting lost in Windows, whatever it is, right? Feel free to hit us up and we can find a way to get you additional resources there. What else from yesterday? Any moments that clicked? Any things that you're frustrated on still? Where are we at?
Um, Yesterday getting our indentation and our divs correct for our website. I think we're now moving on to the mobile site, but divs are really hard, but I think I got an understanding on how to decipher them. I'm excited.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and you're totally right. We're headed into the mobile site next. Divs are not going away, right? You're gonna get more and more practice with them, and it will become second nature. Getting that indentation flowing, getting that going. I think there may be a revolt on tomorrow. I'm gonna show you a tool called Prettier. And how that can help you with indentation by fixing your indentation for you. But I promise that that is well thought through in the curriculum, because if you don't understand your divs, you're not going to understand your code, right? The div is literally what's telling the browser how everything's laying out and where things should be. And Prettier is one of those things that can help you with indentation, but it can't help you with the code itself. So when you're missing divs or you don't know what div a code should go into, you're gonna just struggle with it. And so getting through that now, getting practice with it, getting more comfortable with it, and then turning on Prettier and seeing Prettier help you with the indentation will hopefully be the right combination of skills to help you understand it.
I think the comments that you put in yesterday were helpful. I think this might be an imposter syndrome issue, but I have like a need to understand stuff. So if I don't know all of it, or if I don't really understand it, I struggle. So I read about divs last night, and kind of tried to get a more clear understanding, because I didn't know about divs. And so that has been helpful, but I know that I need to be able to function and not have everything. So maybe Prettier will help with that part too. But having you put the comments in and going back and looking at that, and also rewatching that video, like I had to rewatch the video when we had Brandon. His name is Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And rewatching the video was very helpful. May not be able to watch it like every day, but it definitely was helpful, because I missed like a little segment, and it was helpful to go back and rewatch everything. So
yeah, it's tough as an instructor, because like we've got to keep going through content, right? We got to keep practicing, we got to keep going, but at the same time, that pressure of keeping up may be what's holding you back from fully grasping the concept, right? So it's this really tough balance of how do we make sure we're continuing to learn new concepts and keep going on projects, but at the same time, like, having a pause button on me is sometimes really, really helpful, So if you can go back and reuse those classes, and I think hitting up those additional learning resources are great. If any student finds a concept where you're like, this resource, like, I read this one article, or I watched this 15-minute long YouTube video, and all of a sudden at the end of it, I realized I understood divs. Share that, right? There are much better teachers out there than me teaching these concepts. And sometimes it's not even I'm teaching it poorly, it's just that I didn't teach it a way that made sense to you, but someone else maybe did. And sometimes that's just teaching style. Sometimes it's, well, I can't learn it based on video, but when I was reading it, something clicked there. Sometimes it's they use a different analogy, and that's what clicks. They're all different things that happen there. So as you find those learning resources, if you find them helpful, please share them, not just in the student back channel, but share them in the CIC Student C3 channel. And the reason I throw that out there is because I want to start gathering those resources and adding them to the outlines, because those outlines aren't just for me, for my sanity of knowing what I'm teaching next, or for you guys to go back and have a central launching off point, but those outlines are going to be the basis of all of our future cohorts as well. And so even if it's a simple book title or a link to Amazon or a YouTube video that you find helpful or a Medium post that you read that explained it, even if it's a paid resource that you're using, whatever it is there, feel free to send them my way, because we definitely want to gather them and make them helpful for everyone. With that said, if you're still struggling, if you're feeling like, all right, I got there, right? My website's done. I've got my new site. But I feel like I still don't get divs. That's okay. We're going to get more practice with them. They don't go away. The good news, we're starting from scratch tonight. The bad news, we're starting from scratch on the new site. Believe it or not, we're going to start over. We're going to dive back in. We're going to get more practice, and it's going to be different, but we're going to have one big column, and that big column, the way we're going to think about it is mobile, right? So we're going to go through, we're going to do an intro to DevTools tonight. We're going to watch a quick video on it. And the video is not meant for you to really follow along. It's just to give you exposure to the tools. DevTools is one of those things where, like, we can't really spend an hour on DevTools. The best way to learn the DevTools is just seeing me use the DevTools. So we're going to watch a video tonight on DevTools, just get you exposure to it. And then as you see me developing tonight, I'm going to start using them a little bit more, right? And you're going to see me playing around with them. I think we got a little brief introduction to them tonight. But the most important thing I can say on DevTools is I guarantee you at some point you're going to go, but what did he just click on? And you're not going to have the YouTube video to go back and have a 2.5 hour video that you need to find that exact spot, right? So unmute your mic, or if you're in person, just shout out loud, stop. What did you just click on? I want to figure out how to do that myself, right? So, or you're going to get in DevTools and you're like, I'm clicking on what he's clicking on and it ain't doing the right thing. It ain't doing the same thing, right? That's fine. Stop me. Let me know, right? This is a learning experience for everyone. So, DevTools is on the agenda tonight. We're going to kick off the mobile website. I do have a link to the mock-up if you want to pull that up. In a minute, I will kick off not only screen sharing, but diving into the project, doing the live share link, getting all of that set up, all of that good stuff. Before we dive into that, though, anything from yesterday, any questions, any roadblockers, anything else to note for yesterday's class?
Hey, Max, question. As far as the homework assignment is concerned, the one that's on there now, are we waiting until the end to share both codes, or the one that we have now?
I do have 2 separate assignments up currently, and I think there's a third one maybe for office hours, but A18 is going to be the desktop website. So that is kind of where we left it last night, is considered complete. So if you have that done, and if you have not copied and pasted any of my code into that, then you're fine to turn it in. If you have copied and pasted any of my code into it, just delete it out, get the practice typing it in, and then go ahead and turn that in, and you are good to go. If you're feeling like, I got it working yesterday, but I'm still not all the way there yet, I know it's super painful, but start from scratch. Work your top down, your top of the columns to the bottom of the columns, from left to right. Get that practice typing it in, right? Because making sure my code looks exactly like your code is going to get you to the output, but it's not going to get you to the understanding of, but why did he code that, right? And that's the really important thing, is wrapping your head around, but how does he know how to do that? How does he know to put that div inside the other div, right? Identifying that layout and getting the practice of typing the syntax, that's what a complete assignment looks like to me. And so that's the important thing there, is just keep on practicing on that, keep on figuring out what it's going to take. And you may get to the end of tonight's assignment and be like, I got it. I don't know when the light bulb came on, but the light bulb came on. I made that whole site. I kept up with them, and I can turn in assignment 19, which is the mobile website. And that's great. That's all that really matters. So just kind of self-grading yourself a little bit and figuring out your comfortableness with it is what's going to let you determine, hey, do I need to redo this homework assignment, or did I complete it in class, feel like I'm getting it, and I'm ready for the next project? And if you feel like you're getting it, you're ready for the next one, turn in what you have so far. That's going to be assignment 18. We're going to start from scratch and do assignment 19 today. Hopefully by the end of class, we should have the whole site built out. If you're feeling like that's all working great, feel free to turn it in at the end of class. And then we're going to have assignment 20, which is going to be a fully responsive website. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to that tonight or not. But basically what that's going to be is having one HTML file that looks the same on mobile as our assignment 19, which we're covering tonight. And when you pull it out on desktop, it looks the same on desktop. And we're going to take those responsive ideas, because every project we're not going to do 2 sites and then merge them down. From this point forward, after tonight's class, we're going to be doing all responsive websites, figuring out how that impacts the design, and then building that into our code. But tonight we're going to do a mobile only website, which still is responsive web has become industry standard, but there are still a lot of websites that don't try to do mobile responsiveness. They say that's too hard. We're going to do a mobile site, and that's going to be completely separate code from our responsive site, or from our desktop site. And some companies still do that, and you know, that's fine. But we're going to practice doing our mobile site, getting a design there. We're going to see all the same concepts from last night applying the mobile site. And then we're going to go through to the final step, which is a fully responsive site. Before you're done with the new site, you can put it away in a closet until we get back to our portfolio. You can decide whether you want to put it on your portfolio or not. And then we're going to move on to the next project, which is Netflix. And then after Netflix, we're going to make Amazon. And after Amazon, we're going to have a project week, and we're going to get you caught up on your portfolio. And then you're going to say, please get me out of HTML. I've had enough front end for a lifetime. And I'm going to say, okay. And we're going to move on to JavaScript and get into computer science fundamentals and variables and loops and a different kind of project. And right when you're comfortable with that, we're going to switch it up again and go into React and backend. And before you know it, the program is going to be over.
Alright.
It's almost like I made this entire curriculum and was involved in the whole process.
Huh?
Max, you
Oh,
got
you can't? Oh, alright, my bad. Max?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so now I just want to second what Christy said, because, like, those comments yesterday kind of, like, really help, because when it comes to the divs, I get really stuck with that, especially being, like, blind like I am. So, are we gonna use those tonight? Because, like, it was real helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely use them tonight, and keep me honest on that. So, like, as I'm making divs, if you're like, but you didn't label that one, like, just shout that out, right? And I'll go back and I'll throw that label in. Because yeah, it's hard as a senior developer who's been doing this for so long to forget what the struggle was like when I was learning this initially, right? Where I was getting lost in the same divs too. So over time, your experience just builds, and you don't need those comments anymore, right? But putting those comments in now is going to make it so much more helpful for you to learn it. So keep me honest on that. Yeah, just shout out and be like, you've got a comment there, or what's that one closing? And I'll go back in and throw in the comment, because if it's a helpful tool for you, I'm happy to utilize it.
I do have a quick question, Max. Can you hear me though?
I can. Yep, you're good.
Okay, I've got a headset on. That's what I was wondering. So if I did want to, because I missed class yesterday, but I watched the whole YouTube video and, finished up my code. And Ariel was actually going to help me when we went on break, but because for some reason it won't load when I click on my go live. So if by chance I did want to like redo that and start from scratch, how do I do that in VS Code? Do I just like make a new file, or?
Great question. Yeah, you're going to make a new file. And I think Christy may have had this question last night of how do I do that? And what you want to do is when you make your new file, you never really want to mess with file extensions. So you wouldn't want to call it index.html2, because your computer is going to look at that and be like, oh, is there new HTML I don't know about? So what you want to do instead is call it like index2.html or second try.html. You may, when you go live, have to adjust that in your URL, which I know isn't working for you right now. But so instead of it just saying localhost colon 5500, you would want to put a slash at the end of it and call it index2.html, and that will load the new version of the code that you're working on. But yeah, it's as simple as just creating a new file, making sure the file extensions end in .html and .css. Make sure when you put in your link tag that it's going to link to the newer version of your CSS file, and then go through it that way. And we're going to do a new project setup tonight and start from scratch and do those files, because that's a process that you're going to be very comfortable with by the end of the program.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Other questions tonight? Anything from last night that we want to touch on?
That has nothing to do with last night. So office hours, I know I had rescheduled for today. I'm just kind of really behind right now because I'm working part-time and like I barely get any hours. So they called me in like last minute today. I was thinking I had office hours at 12 today. At 1 p.m. today, even though it's 12. I noticed we were scheduled again. So I did reschedule. I want to apologize about that. Yeah.
No problem. So, two things to say on that. One, we try and keep office hours and one-on-one separate, right? So office hours are Friday at 5:30. Office hours are always a group session. And then one-on-ones are, like the name implies, just the two of us. They're private. If you do request them to be recorded, the only person getting that recording is you. And a lot of people will find the one-on-ones, as they get more technical, helpful to be recorded, so they can go back in and kind of see what we did and make sure they understand it. But recording of one-on-ones is completely optional. It doesn't matter to me whether or not you want it recorded or not. So no big deal if you can't make a one-on-one. The email confirmation that you get from Calendly should give you an option to either cancel it or reschedule it. And if you can't find the email, if it's a last minute thing, just shoot me a message in Slack and be like, sorry, I know we're scheduled, can't make it. Don't even need a reason why, just shoot me a quick message. I had 11 meetings today, and so I was literally hopping from meeting to meeting, and when someone isn't in a meeting, it just like throws off my entire pacing, because I'm geared up for meetings and making sure I'm prepared for each one of them. So just shooting me a message and being like, hey, I'm not going to make this meeting today, we'll reschedule later, that's completely fine. Or go into Calendly. Calendly should make it pretty easy to reschedule for you. So it's not really a big deal. Things come up. I know you miss it, but it's super helpful for me just to get a message of like, hey, I can't make it, I'll reschedule later. Or just going in Calendly and doing that directly. That does help me just plan out my day a little bit more. But no big deal. Things happen. I know a lot of you guys are working or have family and childcare or parent care or whatever it is. So I totally get it. I know this program is asking a lot, but just keeping those communication lines open is really beneficial and should help you guys as much as it helps me. Awesome. Anything else from yesterday before we move on? Okie doke. So I think we touched on what we're doing today already. The outline is very light for tonight. It's literally just intro to DevTools, getting started on the mobile site, and then talking about getting pixel perfect design done. So with that said, I'm actually going to kick off a YouTube video for Intro to DevTools. I watched several of these, including the hour free code camp link that I also put in the resources. So if you're like kind of your interest is piqued based off of the DevTools video we're watching tonight, I did link to a longer version of it. You guys are always welcome to go on YouTube and find additional resources. And like I said, if you find a resource that really works for you, let me know. And I can add it to the list. The other thing I will say is Keep on giving me feedback, not only on how class went tonight in the 30-second feedback form, but also on like whether or not you found the video helpful, right? Because if you're like, video was fine, but I would much rather if Max just showed me that directly, that's fine. Or if you're like, I cannot stand that guy, he used a YouTube link, this one works much better, or anything but that one, again, please save future students from that. That is completely valid feedback. So just want to throw that out there. But with that said, I'm going to pause recording again. Okay. So DevTools, Safari and Firefox have their own versions of this. So just to keep that in mind, they are a little different, but they all kind of accomplish the same goals. Chrome is notorious, though, for having the best dev tools. So the idea here is we're doing this on a site that we haven't built, but you can use it just as frequently on your own site as you can on a site that's built. So what I did to pop this open is I hit right-click and I hit inspect, and that opened all of this. And that's a whole heck of a lot to get started with. And you'll see there are a lot of tabs up here. You will love to hate the console when we get into JavaScript. That's going to be where a lot of our JavaScript output comes out. And the console is basically the place the computer can tell us what the output of the code is that we're running as a developer. There are lots of other tabs in here, including the network tab. That's going to be super helpful when we do some back-end development work, because that's going to show everything that's coming and going from the browser over the internet and back to us. So you're going to see us using the network tab and the network and the console tabs in the future. Sources is helpful for kind of pulling apart the different files that are being used here. And there are tabs in here that I just have never used. Lighthouse is one for figuring out how quickly a page loads, and will actually prioritize. You can use that information to get your search result on Google higher up, right? So we could use Lighthouse on the Careers in Code website to figure out what components are loading slow, and if we could get those pages loading faster, when you do a search for Syracuse Bootcamp, we may actually be able to get our page higher up in those search rankings because our page loads faster than other people's pages. That whole concept is called search engine optimization. You'll commonly see that acronym SEO. And SEO is all about, I don't want to say games, but little things you can do to your website to make your website show up higher in search engine results, right? Search engine Google optimization. That's all I will say on SEO, because SEO is a field of programming voodoo, and it is constantly evolving. And there are actually local Syracuse companies that specialize in, well, companies all over the world that specialize in search engine optimization. So if you really love HTML and really love working with the browser and figuring out like what tricks you can do on your HTML to get search engines to like it more, SEO is a very interesting field, and you can go into a full-time job. SEO is common for consultants to come in and work on different sites there. Okay, that's all I will say about all the other tabs here. What we're going to focus on tonight is the Elements tab and these two little buttons up here. Now, what you may have realized if you are following along with me, which I would encourage you to do on any website that you want to pull up, over here on the right side, there are those three dots on top of each other. I guess the most important button I should say here is this little close button, because you'll notice now that you've got your inspect tools up, you've got very little room to work on your site. So if you ever want to get rid of the inspect tools, hit the close button, you're back to normal. Excuse me. If we go back into inspect, there are these three little dots here. This pulls up additional commands and tools for the dev tools. The most important thing here is this little dock side. So right now you can see the one that's blue is the one that has it at the bottom. But if I click to the right, it's just going to move it to the right. That seems like such a little thing and insignificant. But you'll see once I'm finally in person with you guys, if you've got your dev tools to the right, the first thing I'm going to do is shove it to the bottom. Because for whatever reason, the dev tools to me are so much more helpful when they're at the bottom than they are when they're on the side. I don't know why, but that layout to me makes more sense at the bottom. The other option that you have there is to click this little pop-out button, and it's going to make it a detached window. So you can just use your regular snapping if you've got rectangles set up, and keep the DevTools over on the right-hand side, or position things on top of each other. Or you can say, I hate it detached, click back up here, and dock it down at the bottom again. Lots of different options there for where to put it. Okay, that's great. What can we do in the DevTools? Well, mode that we're going to be using tonight is this mobile responsiveness device tester. So if I click on that, you're going to notice that all of my page content shrinks in. And then up here up at the top, right now my dimensions are set in responsive. So that means that I can drag this out and set whatever screen dimensions I want. And you'll see here up at the top, it's reporting out the width of my screen right now in pixels. So if I want to say, oh, I'm working with a 1080 monitor, right? 1080 is the resolution of high definition monitors. I can type in 1080 and it's automatically going to snap me to that. I can also come in, click on responsive here, and test out different screen sizes. So I can actually click on an iPhone 12 Pro, and it's going to set my screen dimensions to what an iPhone 12 Pro is. And I can even click on this little button up here, and it's going to rotate me into landscape mode. So if I pull out, if I have an iPhone 12 Pro, and pull that out and load up stackoverflow.com and do a search for div in the bar, it's going to be these exact screen dimensions and look like that. But this is helpful not only for screen testing, but for tablet testing. So I can go up to an iPad Air and see what this is going to look like. You'll notice the dimensions are a little bit bigger than what the iPhone dimensions are. I can rotate that around, and I can even come up here and scale it down so I can see what it would look like at 50% or 100% or whatever it may be. So, ask that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
How did you open that portion of the DevTools up?
Yeah, so I right-click Inspect, which brings up this bottom bar, and then over here on the left, the second button in, it looks like a tablet and a phone right in front of it. And that is really important not only to get into it, but also to get out of it. So if you're like, I'm out of device testing mode, I just want my regular DevTools back, you can just click on that again, and it's going to bring you out of that mode and put you right back in. And so that's really helpful because sometimes you've got your screen squished down here and you're testing, and you're like, well, I've got all of this monitor space over on the right, but I just want to see what it looks like on a mobile display, right? And so that's how you can pull it off. You can have your window open large, you can go into testing mode, you can set whatever device you want here, or go into responsive and just drag it down yourself. And that's what's going to let you test different screen sizes while still being able to use most of your monitor.
Thank you.
I know you probably already said this, but is there a way to like pull up inspect just from using the keyboard?
I did not cover that, and I'm sure there is. If you
Function F12,
Which one is function?
the FN key.
FN? Oh.
Yeah.
Which one?
Function, FN key, and F12 body.
I'm sure that's the right answer. I'm trying to find where. It is also Command Option I will pull up the DevTools. That will toggle that on and off. Or you can do Command Option C, and that will bring you, maybe not, that will bring you into Elements. So Command Option I is to bring you into the console, and Command Option C is to bring you into Elements.
And option C.
Yes. Just make sure you're clicked into Chrome, as Chrome is the active window, and that should pop it open. Unless it's already open, and then it won't necessarily toggle it out.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about what's going on down here. So I can grab any section of this bar over on the right, or if I get my mouse right at the top, I'm going to get that little double arrow icon. I know that's super tiny on my screen, but an arrow pointing up and down, and I can move this up and down. You're going to see me doing that a lot, right? Because there are times where I'm like, I don't really want to see the site, just give me the code, I want to work in that. And there are other times where I'm like, I want to see what my code's doing, push that down. That's fine. So what I can do is I'm going to push this here, and I'm going to use the first icon in the toolbar. And when I click on that, it doesn't look like it actually did anything, but when I drag my mouse out, you see how everything is turning a different color when I highlight over different sections? That's actually jumping me to the section of my code that little thing is rendering out. So if I click on any one of these, you'll now see that my excerpt is highlighted down here. And you can actually see when I hover over the result link, that div class result link, it's showing me that highlighted as well. But if I'm like, all right, but what's the parent div that's holding all of that? I can go up and highlight summary, and it's going to highlight all of that. Again, we know that this is the parent div because we're indented another level deep here. And so I can close that section and open up the stats container. And from the stats container, I can go in and see each of the independent items inside of there as well. And so if you'll notice what's highlighted up at the top, there's a little orange area down at the bottom, and then there's a little green area between the text. I know that's super hard to see, but right where my 37 answers is highlighted, the orange is showing me the margin, the green is showing me the padding. So dev tools are not only great for only picking apart your existing code, they're also great with playing with your code and seeing what it's doing. So I'm going to click on this little this status answer accepted. And over on the right, we've got a whole heck of a lot of CSS showing up. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And there is our box model showing up. Our margin, our border, our padding, and our and everything going on there, right? So if I highlight over my padding, there's actually a little green area that's showing up above the 37 answers and right below it. But what I can do is I can double click on a number there, and I can type in 100 and hit enter, and you're going to see what 100 pixels padding looks like. Now, obviously, this is not impacting the Stack Overflow website. It did not hack my way into Stack Overflow. Anyone who loads this page is not going to see my 100 padding added to there. But what this allows us to do is play around with sometimes our own code or other people's code to edit it, understand how it's working, understand how the browser is seeing it, and being able to make live updates in the browser before we go back to our code and play around with it. So another trick is if you double click in there and you have it highlighted, you can use the up and down keys to make that value drop. And so as we get down and I say, all right, let's see what a 25 pixel padding looks like. When I hit enter on that, it's going to make a little liar out of me and not live update. We get to see what 25 pixel padding looks like on there. So this is super helpful in playing with our padding and our sizing and all of that kind of stuff. Now, one other well, I'm going to scroll back up to the top. We also have the ability to affect what our element style is. So if we're like, I wonder what that button would look like if it was blue, I can uncheck my padding top, and that's going to make that no longer apply, right? So this is now kind of ignored. You can think of it as like commented out. And even if we look in our style tag, you'll see it actually is commented out. The browser put in our little CSS comment, which is a slash and a star, to make it ignore that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. I'm going to just double click, and sometimes it's finicky, but that's going to get me a new line. So what I can do in there is I can actually say, I wonder what the background would look like if it was purple. And sure enough, you'll see that changed out. Now, if I'm like, all right, I've played with this enough, I don't want to make any more changes to it, put it back to the way it was, I can simply refresh the page, and after I tell it that I am not a robot, we'll go back in and it will be back to the way it initially was. So this is really just a playground for us debugging, for looking at other people's code, for looking at our code, going in from there. So you'll see all of the CSS that's being applied to this element. If And that is kind of showing us the breakdown of all the different classes that are applying. But if you're like, just tell me what the computer is seeing, we can go into the computed area, and that's going to show you not only the background color, but the radius of the border. It's going to show you kind of the color of the text. It's going to show you everything the browser is computing out for what CSS applies and showing it here. The last thing I want to show you in DevTools before we run streaming back to our own code is not only can we edit the styles and the classes on this, we can also even edit the HTML content. So if I really want to prove that there are more than 37 answers here, I can actually just double click on 37 and say there are 987 answers and hit enter, and that's going to live update. So I know that this is kind of hard because you're just like overwhelmed with all the different tools in here. But what you're going to see over time is I'm going to start using these and start going, oh, that's not right. And I'm going to pop in inspect and fiddle with something in there. And you can go, whoa, 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 what'd you fiddle with? I want to know how you did that. And that's completely fine. Okay, I know that was a lot. Let's stop. Any questions?
Question. So you know how you go live on your code?
Yes.
How come I can't pull up the inspect from there and code there?
You could. The problem is that whenever the page refreshes, whenever I change my file, it's going to refresh out all of your changes and overwrite them.
So for my own website, like even then?
Even then, this is meant to kind of be a temporary workspace. You can totally play around in here and then copy whatever code you've done in here back into your file. But this is meant to be more of like a safe playground that you can overwrite quickly, or a sandbox is another term, that you know, you can play around and pick apart how it's working, but this isn't meant to be kind of a replacement text editor. This is more of a temporary environment.
Thank you.
Great question. Yes, Christy, is that a hand raise?
Yeah, so to piggyback off of what Tiffany just said. So, I mean, Nicole, sorry. So we would work here. This is like a rough draft kind of thing. And then we would, after we see what this will do, then we go back into
VS Code.
VS Code, and then that's our actual final draft, and we put that there. So this is like a playground type of thing.
You got it.
Okay.
You totally got it.
Because I looked up DevTools while you were talking, and I'm like, what does this mean? Okay, I got it.
Perfect. And I will leave the link to the video I was going to show if you want to hear someone else explain it. And then there's an hour-long crash course on DevTools that's going to like show you all of DevTools. And that is produced by Free Code Camp. So if you like Free Code Camp learning resources, you can go back over there and check that out. It's an hour-long video. I'm not going to quiz you on any of that. There's no homework assignment. It's totally optional. But I did link into that if you like Free Code Camp videos. That one is specifically on Chrome DevTools. Any other questions on this before we dive back into our own code? Okie doke. All right, so let's dive back in. I am going to pull up my mockup. This is linked in the week 3, day 3 outline, which should hopefully be in Canvas. I really tried to get everything public, so you guys should be able to open everything. If you can't, definitely let me know. So this is the site that we're going to be recreating tonight. And this should kind of look familiar, but also look like, hey, if I loaded that on my phone, it would also be much easier content to navigate. So we're going to build out this mobile site. I don't want to promise too much and say we're going to get to the fully responsive point where we've got both of our code bases merged down together, but this is the goal of the site that we want to create tonight. Okay, so I'm going to go through our normal setup. I'm going to go into VS Code. I'm going to go File, Open Folder. I'm going to go create, I'm going to make sure I'm in my code, my week 3. Because we're starting from scratch, I'm going to say day 3. I don't need to move any files over. I'm just going to hit open on that. That's going to pop it open here. I'm going to start my live share. I'm going to dump that link in... where is my live stream? There it is. Dump that in live stream. I'm also going to dump that in the Zoom chat if you find that easier to get to. Okay, that's also in there. And then while I'm in here, I'm going to do my new file. I'm going to call it index.html. If you don't want to call it index and you want to call this mobile.html, that's completely fine. Just watch any spaces in your file name. Sometimes that comes back to bite you. I'm going to do my exclamation mark and my enter. I'm going to type my title in, and I'm going to call this mobile news. I'm going to go into my body. I'm going to add an h1 tag, and I'm going to say, just type in anything. I'm going to do my new file. I'm going to say style.css. I'm going to target my h1, and I'm going to make this a red color. You'll see, even though I always go back and delete my h1 or my red here, the point is that we're adding something into our CSS to make sure our CSS is working. Because we don't want to write 40 lines of CSS and realize that there was something wrong with our link tag and it broke down the road. So even though I'm going to go back in and nuke all of this code, it's better to have that small testable piece. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back into my index. I'm going to get Zoom out of the way. I'm going to come under my title tag. I'm going to add in my link. And I'm going to say the rel is a style sheet. And the href is style.css. The order of attributes does not matter here. If you like your href coming first, that's completely fine. I'm going to save and go live. I've got my red CSS rocking and rolling, but it is in Times New Roman, and it is ugly, and I know we're going to want Bootstrap, especially the grid. So I'm going to go to getbootstrap.com. I'm going to go to get started. I'm going to go down here, copy the CSS URL. I'm going to make sure that that is above my style.css. So any style that I write is going to overwrite the CSS, the Bootstrap style. I'm going to save. I'm going to come back. I'm going to see that my font is in Arial, and I am going to stop and let you guys catch up.
Thank you so much, because I was getting ready to say speeding ticket. Oh my God.
No, we're going fast, but this should all be a review. At the same time, you guys have twice as many windows to deal with as I do, so give everyone a chance to catch up. So just to review what you should have at this point, you should have CSS on your page or some text. It doesn't matter. We're about to delete it. It should be red, and it should not be in Times New Roman. Sometimes I like to toy with you guys and go super fast right at the end before we jump on the brakes.
Okay, I need to see how you did your style CSS again.
Yep. If you jump into the, I don't know if your live share is working. You can jump into the link, or it's just an H1 with a color red in it.
Okay.
And then in the top of the index, I just have my link rel style sheet, href style.css.
It's www. Oh, it's Get Bootstrap?
Getbootstrap.com. They do not own Bootstrap.com. And you can also pull it from a previous file if that's easier. That link does not change particularly frequently.
And what font did you say you wanted this to have?
Oh, you don't have to change the font. The default font for Bootstrap is Arial. So I'm going to use my DevTools, and I'm just going to expand out my window and go to the Computed tab. And if you hover over here, it says System UI is the font. But if you pop that open, it's going to make a little liar out of me and actually not tell me what font it's using. Okay, I'm going to go to the Styles tab, and I'm going to do a search for font. And that should show me
helps everyone else, but you put the name in the title. Maybe,
Okay, so they use Roboto if the font is available, and if the font isn't available, they use Helvetica Neue, and if that isn't available, they use Arial. And so that's just a quick example of the dev tools. If you pop open inspect and then do a search for font at the top of styles, it's going to actually show you all of the CSS that it's using. But the obvious thing is that this font is no longer Times New Roman, which tends to be the browser default of most browsers. It's just in a different font, and if it's not in Times New Roman, you got Bootstrap loaded.
So,
Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
you go ahead first. Sorry.
Well, I finished. I caught up, but my site isn't updating.
Did you start the live server?
I thought I did.
Go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Max, I can't find my poll to say yes, I did it.
Okay, no problem. Thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
This is my screen.
Okay, everything looks good there. Let's go to your index. And you don't have any words in your H1.
Ew. Let's see. Oh
Red.
my God. All right. Never mind. Let me get off of here. Thank you.
That's why we go through all of those steps, right? Because it's easy to forget your style link. It's easy to forget that, Bootstrap, you think you got loaded and it isn't loading. It's easy to, all of these little individual steps. That's no matter what project I'm starting, I've written code bases with tens of thousands of lines of code. And I always start with a red H1 to make sure everything's linked up.
I'm having a similar. Sorry, Stephanie. I'm having a similar issue, but my CSS won't turn red, and I have it in as red. My H1 as red. I'm not sure.
Go ahead and share your screen, and then Christy, I'll get to you next.
Share.
Okay. I think your style is great. I don't know about your style.
Oh.
You see the name of that file?
Oh. Yeah, that's okay. That could possibly be a problem. All right, thank you, Max.
No problem. As soon as you hit enter on that, and you're good to go.
There we go. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Christy, and no, one more thing. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Really quickly, I'm sorry. I can't get your live website up, which is weird. Like in VS Code, what do I select on the bottom?
So if you go File, New Window, and then over on the left-hand side, hit the live share icon, which should be the last one in the top section, and then the join button.
No, so I'm in there. I'm in your code. I just can't pull it up on a website. Like it won't.
Oh, in the live share over on the left, it should say live server underneath the list of participants. It should say shared server, live server. If you double click on live server, it should pop it open.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, now you're up, Christy.
So your first explanation was my question. So I keep having this problem. Like I can see your code, but now I don't know where mine went.
Okay, so you're going to go File, New Window.
Where?
File at the top left of the screen. I think your TV keeps on cutting off File.
Oh, well, when it says code, I didn't think that was the right place. I thought that was something else.
No, and that's a good point of, how you have your file, edit, all of that. On Windows, it's always going to be at the top of the window, right? It's always going to be up here. But on the Mac, whatever window is active is going to change the menu bar all the way at the very top of the screen. So the Mac is kind of weird in that the menu bar is always anchored at the top.
Okay.
And then open, and then keep going from there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Stop share. Okay.
Wayne, did you have a question?
Um, I did, but I ended up figuring it out.
The answer I like to hear. Awesome. We've got 8 out of 17 people caught up, 9 counting Larry's vote. Anyone else have questions before we chug along here?
That's so annoying. I'm sorry, it's working so closely with me.
Max, can you do me a favor?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna ask anyway. Can you unmake the other the Hack Up State laptop co-host and make me co-host? So the poll, dang, the poll's still gonna pop up on the screen no matter what. Never mind.
No, I can make you both co-hosts.
Can you not send the poll
Yep, done.
to specific people?
No, but if I make the laptop co-host and you co-host, I think it will prevent the poll from showing up on the class laptop.
It still shows up. I'm just gonna drag it somewhere.
Oh, I think from polls from now on out shouldn't do that.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question real quick.
Yep.
After I get the Bootstrap link for CSS, what am I pasting underneath that?
You're supposed to have a link rel equals style sheet and then style equals CSS.
So, okay, hold on. Why is this? I'm gonna rename this. Let me rename this first.
All right, we've got 10 people voted and 15 people in the room. Anyone need help?
Mine won't change color, so
Yep.
Let me
go ahead and share your screen.
I don't know why. Weird.
Okay. Your H1 is not in your body and should be. So let's move that down.
Delete.
And then did you mean for your rel and href to be style.css, or did you want one of those to be a style sheet?
Oh, crap.
And then just delete out the .css there. And put in eat. There you go. Save and take a look in your browser.
There we go. Okay.
Christy, do you have a question?
Fixed it.
That's what we like. Okay, anyone else for getting started? If you're not caught up now, you're not going to be in a good spot for moving forward here. So let's take the time now and get it done. Going once, going twice. Sold to moving on. Okay. So, 20 minutes until break. How much of the site can we get done? You think we can do the whole site in 20 minutes? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's pull up our mock-up. So we're going to start from the top down here. I'm not going to go through and draw boxes on all of this because the boxes hopefully are a little bit easier on mobile. However, if you think that is a helpful exercise in helping you plan, I would not stop you from doing this on your own or during the break, just getting practice with those boxes. We're going to do those boxes again on the Netflix site. We're going to do them again on the Amazon site. Those boxes are not going away, right? That breakdown. But if you have any questions of like, but how do you know to use that class, or why are you putting that in there instead of as another one, let me know and we'll get that start. We'll go through that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my H1 because we've proven my CSS is working. I'm going to delete it from my style. And first thing I'm going to do is, because we're using Bootstrap, Bootstrap is much happier as a framework when we put everything in a container. So we're going to put everything in a container. Now we're going to identify, first thing we're working on is our Nav Bar. So I'm going to do another div class equals, and well, there's only going to be one Nav Bar, right? So I'm just going to do an ID on that instead, and I'm going to call that my Nav Bar.
Max,
Can't see
we
your
can't.
screen.
Can't see.
That might help. Okay, so I did my div class container. I put my div class nav bar in. Now, what you've already told me is it is helpful to see the comments. So before we get too far, let's do comments. We're going to say start of container. And we're going to come down here. I'm going to click my div here. That's highlighting my div down here and the line. I know that this is now the end of my container. And we know that this is the start of the nav bar. Which means this must be the end of nav bar. And you know what? Because we are using a row here, because we're going to get things over to the right and things over to the left, I'm also going to add a class equals nav row, because we can use rows and IDs or multiple classes. We cannot have multiple IDs, however, only one ID. Okay, I am going to save that. I'm going to say nav bar just to make sure nothing broke horribly. I'm going to come over to my mobile news, and that's showing up. First problem, though, we're going to run into a lot of problems right off the bat here. This doesn't look like a mobile site to me. This looks like a desktop site. So the way we are going to emulate working on a mobile site is we're going to right-click inspect. That's going to pop open my DevTools. And then I'm going to click on the little device here. And then I'm going to go up to the top where it says responsive. And I'm going to pick my device of choice. I'm going to work on an iPhone 12 Pro. You can work on whatever you want. Now this is super tiny for me. So I'm going to pull my DevTools down. The problem with mobile is the second I close out of my DevTools, it thinks I'm done working with mobile. There's no way in Chrome to have mobile mode on without having our DevTools open. So when I right-click inspect, it puts me back in mobile mode. So I'm just going to shove my bar down at the bottom so my DevTools are out of the way. And then I'm going to adjust this 46 to 100. And that's just going to make it a little bit easier to see. I'm actually going to go bigger so the screen share isn't hard to see. But just keep in mind that this is 150% or 50% really bigger than what it would look like on an actual iPhone or whatever device you picked. So my nav bar is showing up. I didn't break anything horribly. I'm in here. And now we run into our second problem of we're in a mobile mode now. But how do I get that 3 little bar icon? Now, we've cheated kind of before and used emoji, but there is no emoji for that bar icon. So we're going to use Font Awesome for the first time in our first project. So Font Awesome is just a bunch of little icons, and while using emoji is great and a newer tool for developers, Font Awesome really makes it easy for us to use different icons in our website. So you're going to find the process is very similar to Bootstrap. You can go to fontawesome.com or just do a quick Google search for Font Awesome. We're going to click on the little Start for Free button. Oh, are you going to make me use a kit now?
Max,
Yep.
have you ever used the Google version, like material icon, like icons?
I have. Would you recommend that?
I just know that it's less headache than Font Awesome right now, I think.
Well, let's take a look. Google icons material.
They work just like a font. I mean, it's like, it's really basic, but I think it would do the job for something like this.
Yeah, let's use this instead. All right, new tools, learning on the fly here. So I went to fonts.google.com/icons, which is awesome because we already have some exposure to Google Fonts, right? And so I'm on fonts.google.com/icons, or if you just go to fonts.google.com and click on icons up at the top, you're going to see it gives us access to all of these icons in here. But before we can click into one of these and use it, we need to actually set up our HTML to know what those icons are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the developer guide here, and that's going to open me in a new tab. And I'm going to scroll down, and I don't want to download everything. All I want to do is use this icon font for the web. So I'm going to click this little copy code sample icon, or you can just highlight the code here and hit Command C. We're then going to go back into our index.html, and between Bootstrap and our style.css, we're going to add in that new line for our material icons. I'm just going to do one more step to prove that this is working, and then I'll pause and let you guys catch up. So,
put the link in Slack and Zoom chat too for you guys. You're welcome.
yes. So I'm going to come back over to my icons, and I could grab a search icon or settings, but I'm going to go back up to this search up here and just do a search for menu. And perfect. That is the exact menu I want. So I'm going to click on that, and right here it's saying if we're using the icon font, which we are. That's the way that we pulled it in. I'm just going to copy this code, come back over here, and replace my word Nav Bar with that code. And Google's going to spite me and not have my indentation correct. So I'm just going to Shift Tab over, so that's lining up. I'm going to go back to my code, and we're going to find that it didn't work at all. Okay. I did that. Did I miss a step? Using Google Fonts. Material icons outlined. Material icons. There we go. For whatever reason, their code sample was a little off. Instead of using material icons outlined, what I ended up using was just material icons instead. So if you take out the dash outlined at the end, now when you switch back over to your browser, you should have a little menu icon. So let me go through those steps again, not doing anything new here, just going through from the beginning. If you are stuck anywhere, just interrupt me. So what I did is I am going to close everything out. I'm actually going to delete out all of this code, so we're back to the way we were. If yours is already working, you don't have to follow along. But what I did is I opened up a new tab, and I went to fonts.google.com. I clicked on icons up at the top. I went to developer guide over here. I scrolled down. Question?
Where? The what?
Over on the right, it says developer guide in the yellow square. I'm on the icons page up at the top, and then developer guide.
Oh, yep.
Okay. And then I scroll down all the way to the icon font for the web and hit this little copy code sample. Make sure you've got the link tag. That's the right section. Then I came back over to my HTML and put that link tag between my two other link tags. I saved. And I'm coming back over here. I'm closing out of the material icons guide and doing a search for menu up at the top. And that's popping this one out.
Slow down a little bit.
The link is in Slack.
Yeah, but I don't have like my second screen. So like those keep popping up and then
the Wi-Fi is going off. The Wi-Fi? Well, yeah, it goes in and out from that's weird. So my second screen won't work after a while, and I'll miss stuff.
It doesn't.
Huh.
Am I in something else why it doesn't search for menu?
Yep, so you're going to search for menu up at the top. It's going to pull up this icon. Go ahead and click on the first menu. Then hit the...
I want to be able to...
Where searches, you're going to type menu in there, right?
Yes.
When I click search on that, it brings up search results, menu, one display, developers, Google front question.
Okay, so you want to be searching inside the Google Fonts website.
Or no, because of your second screen.
So if you're in the icons page up here up at the top, it should say search material icons.
Okay, fine. I didn't want to work with that.
And that's where we're going to want to do a search for menu.
Yeah, I tried to go down it.
I'm going to click that menu icon. You
I mean, I know
stuck?
how to put it
Wait.
like I know the website, and I'm trying to find, I just want to be on the same page.
Okay. You want me to have
Rather
I think I'm there now.
live streaming.
There we go. Yep.
Okay, so do your search for menu. Click on the first menu icon. You're going to click on this little copy for the icon font. Then we're going to come back over to our code, and inside of our nav bar, between the start and end of our nav bar, we're going to paste it in, and then fix our indentation, move that span over one step, and then the last thing we need to do is just take out this dash outlined.
Hold on. Let me open that part one more time. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, so once we're in menu, we're going to hit the little copy on the first code snippet. We're going to come back over to our code, and right between our nav bar opening div and closing div, we're going to paste it in. So our menu code is showing up there. And then the last thing we need to do is take out this dash outlined.
Oh, okay. We're missing everything.
I'm gonna do that.
Hey,
And
Matt.
that should get us our mobile icon. Yes, our menu icon. Yeah, go ahead, Caitlin.
Can we take like a 5-minute catch up break?
Yeah, we're pretty close to break anyway. So if you got your menu icon showing up, take a long break. Be back at 7:20. If you don't have your menu icon showing up, we're gonna stick around and help you guys all through it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you're good. Please go to
Christy, you want to go first? I know a couple of you guys have questions. We'll get to you all, I promise.
I'm trying to share my screen.
Oh, that works better when I'm not. Go ahead.
All right, you're good. Go back to
Wait a minute. Oh my God. Okay, share screen. I just need you to get me to the menu. That was the only I didn't.
Okay, close this tab.
This one?
Yep.
We'll just copy that.
And now up there, do your search for menu.
Go back.
And then grab your menu over on the left.
So I right click.
Nope, single click on it. Left click.
You can get rid of that. I don't know.
I did that.
Try again.
Save that and
Now over on the right, that first code snippet, you're going to copy that.
you're anything burning or is that just me?
And then go back to your code.
You smell fire. Not fire.
You're going to take out the word nav bar and paste the code in on top of it.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Link?
Oh, maybe
Nope. You already did that. So just delete that out and paste.
that area, but it's
And then the last thing you need to do is take out the dash outlined in the class.
like heat, warm, something. A lot of electronics. Yeah.
And save.
I'm just still working on. You want to
And go back to your code in the browser.
menu. Good search.
How do I? Is this
Yep.
where it is?
Yep.
Go to this menu.
And there's your menu.
I'm caught up, and I got it right, and I was. Oh my God.
Go back to your code for 1 second. I think you've got a stray pair of quotes. If you see in the top left, you've got an opening quote and a closing quote up there.
Wait a minute.
Max, I'm actually having that same problem, so I'm glad you're going over it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I see one of the issues is right here. We've got a stray quote that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
So just delete that one out for me. And then,
Oh shoot.
click in that area, sorry.
So in between.
And then, yeah, okay. And then I'm guessing the other one is at the end of line 9. So if you scroll over to the end of the file.
Awesome. Okay. Yep. And now you're gonna go back to icon.
Come on.
There it is. Oh, too far.
First tab now, because you don't need to go to all the sections. Okay, now search.
There's an extra quote there.
Oh.
Top menu, but you
Oh
can go
man. Okay.
Okay, now you're caught up.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Okay.
Oh my God, I'm so,
Somebody
I
else
know,
do it
Christy, I'm so
first.
excited. I
Look,
found mine too.
Oh my God.
We got rid of 2 quotes and we got an icon showing up. We are on a
Oh,
roll tonight.
wow. I'm scared to go on break. I might miss something.
Okay, that's how I feel. Wait a minute, I'm gonna just sit here.
All right, as soon as everyone turns off their
You-
camera, we're gonna
you-
start break
you-
early. We're gonna.
Mute me because I can't. I'm playing.
I got you muted. You're good.
So I have a question.
Yes.
When you said in the menu icon, the class, material icons, I forget what the third word was.
Outlined.
How did you know to get rid of that?
15 years of professional developer experience. I guessed. So here, let me tell you, I can give you a better explanation. Up here, up at the top, you see how it says outline, filled, rounded, sharp, and two-tone? They're all of these different variations of the icon libraries. So if you check two-tone instead, you see menu book like just changed a little bit.
Wait.
On the Google Icons website.
Oh, okay.
There's like your filters that you can like choose.
So next.
So you just
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne, and then Danielle, I got you coming next.
it'll give you.
I'm gonna just share it. It's just one thing bugging me, which is this. So let me show you. For the love of God, why is this here?
Yep, you got an extra arrow going on, probably somewhere on your head tag.
Yeah, right behind your div.
So I guess you have
Looking for it, I can't find it.
Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Let's go scroll to the end of your line 9.
Sometimes.
9, okay.
No, not there either. All right.
I was like, it's bugging me because I'm like, where is that?
That's a great question. Save and go back to your code and hit the refresh button. Sometimes live server like gets a little confused.
So just
Go back to Chrome, 3-finger swipe over.
okay.
And just hit Command R. Or click the refresh button. No, that sucker's still there. All right, so it's under the menu. So let's go back to your code. I must have missed. Oh, found it.
Where is it?
Line 21.
Ah, there it is. It keep bugging me. I'm like, where is it? Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Danielle, you're up next.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen.
Yep.
I actually have 2 questions. One is, when we were in the Google code, why didn't we choose the option for Android? Hold on, I'm trying to find where it was.
Because we're not doing Android development or iOS development, we're doing web development.
Okay, because when you said like it was a mobile site, I don't know why, like I connected that.
Yeah,
but we
good
still-
question. So when we do web development for mobile, we're still doing it for web on mobile, whether it's Android or iOS. Whenever we see Android or iOS, it means native code, meaning building an app for Android or iOS using a completely different programming language.
Okay, thank you.
That's the difference there.
All right, and then
So you've got an extra closing span tag.
okay.
And then your other problem is you've got a div hanging out down here that is not a tag. But we want to make sure, so your indentation is off, which is going to make it really hard to follow. I think this div is closing this div, and this div is closing this div, which means this div is extra.
Okay.
That's his right now.
So if you save and then take a look in your browser.
I peeped the board.
Oh, yeah.
Slide damage being done on it.
Okay, you're caught up. just go through before break, go through and get your indentation lining up, because if you don't do it now, it's going to be an endless battle towards the end.
Okay, thank you.
All right, who's up next? Oh, darn, Christy's still here. We can't start yet.
I just have a question. So
Yeah.
when I was typing, right, because the keyboard or the computer is like giving me options to so I clicked on the options, and then so when I created a div tab, it created an ending div tab.
Correct.
So I just hit enter.
Yep.
And moved down to the next line. So when we got to the bottom, I had two closing div tabs that were already there and already lined up.
Yes.
So
That's all part of learning what VS Code is trying to help you with.
So if you because before I would think to delete it and then retype it, but it's leading you and it's giving you your closing tag. You just gotta hit enter, and then it'll be in the right spot. When I don't know if anybody else had that aha moment, but I just felt like I should share that.
No. Good to share it.
Like you gotta trust. It's like you gotta trust the process, I guess. Okay. That was
what you're really doing is telling my secrets of how my code always lines up.
Oh, well, sorry. I'm trying to help somebody because I thought I was losing my mind.
No, and that's a good point. Let me just share my screen just in case anyone is. So if I come down here and I do a new div, instead of hitting the closing tag myself, if I hit enter, it's going to make a little liar out of me. If I do my div and hit my closing arrow, it's going to put not only my closing tag in for me, but it's going to put my cursor right in between the two of them. So if I hit enter there, now it's pushing me not only at the right indentation spot here, but lining up my div for the right indentation for the closing div as well. So I can go on a little div tangent and have divs on divs on divs, and all of my indentation is not only right as I go down that path, but as they close, those indentations are correct as well. So yes,
I just
glad.
want to say thank you, Christy, for pointing that out, because I mean, it may seem so simple, but that really is a huge help, because I literally write everything in the same line, and that's what's causing things not to line up, because later I'm trying to push the div where it's supposed to be, but that really helps.
So it's like it's working for us, but we're working against it because we don't know that it's working for us. And even when I would start typing and it would light up, I wouldn't use it because I was like, I didn't know that I could trust it, and not trusting it had me off balance. So trusting it actually keeps you in line. So like even with the link href, when I clicked on it, then when I copied my link, it typed it again. So I had to end up going back and delete it. So it's a learning process. I just feel relieved.
Any other questions before I take a quick break? Okie doke. We'll see you guys again. Okay. So when we are working, we've got a couple more things to get done on our nav bar, right? We've got our subscribe button, a little profile icon, and then our little arrow down button. So let's start work on that. So I know that this has to be over on the left. This is going to be another column, and then this is going to be my last column. I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. So I've got my menu icon in here, but it might not be positioned quite right yet. I've got a subscribe button, and I've got my profile icon. So those are three independent columns that I'm going to use for that. But before I do, I really thought I had to sneeze there. It's going to come, and I'm going to try and be quick on my mute button. Sorry, I don't want to blast you guys away. All right, so let's put our menu bar in a column. So I'm going to go above my span tag, and put in a div class, and I'm going to start that with a call. I'm going to assume that it's a 6 because we kind of want it to take up half of the space there, because this looks like the other half to me. So I'm going to take my ending div, I'm going to put that at the end of my span, and then I'm going to stop and get my indentation right. I opened a div, my spans are here, so I need to tab that over 1, tab my div over so my opening div and closing div are lining up, and then add in a comment that says start of menu call and end of menu call.
Okay, stop. I think I didn't quite understand like why the div didn't just go like under, like to the next. Like, how did you move the div?
I just cut and paste it down to that line.
Oh, okay.
Right, and the reason that we did that, Christy made a great point on the break of when you type div and the closing arrow, it's really helpful to look at the screen while you're typing, because you see it put in our closing div for us. That means that if we just hit the enter button, not only is it going to put our indentation one level over where we should be, it's also going to put our closing tag at the right indentation level. So Christy put it very elegantly. It's like you're fighting VS Code, which is trying to help you and trying to do the right thing. So if I'm in here and I just do my div and my closing div tag, my closing arrow, and hit enter, that's going to set me up well for success. But to your question, the reason why I wasn't set up for success was we already had a span in here. So what I basically did was just highlighted this closing div tag and moved it down to where I wanted it to be. Okay, so this really shouldn't affect anything because we just put it in a column. Let's go check our code, and it's still hanging out there. It's still not doing anything. But what I want to do is I want to get all of my content showing up, and then we can go lay it all out from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, we've got the end of our menu column. So I'm going to do another div class equals call, and I'm going to guess that it's a 3. We can always adjust. And I'm going to say beginning of subscribe call. And I'm just going to copy and paste that down here and make that the end. And we keep on saying start, so let me be consistent there. Start and end. And then in my column, I'm going to get my indentation right. I'm going to hit tab until I'm in the right spot. And I'm just going to add the word subscribe. I'm going to pop over to my browser. Now that's over here. We don't have any styling done on it, but that's okay. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to icons back in my Google Fonts and search for profile. And there's this lovely little account circle that looks almost exactly what I want. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to copy that HTML. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to make one final column. And that's going to be a call 3. I'm going to paste that span tag in and I'm going to take out my word dash outlined.
Probably a good place to stop and let us catch up.
Yep. I just want to check because I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. So that's there. So it's ugly. The general layout is correct, but we still obviously are a far way to go from making it look like this. So we're going to go, after you guys catch up, we're going to go CSS heavy and style all of that out to make it look exactly the way we want it to. But
you said that profile for the icon?
Yeah, I went to icons and I just did a search for profile, and the one that popped up is account circle. So I clicked on that one, and then that changed it over on the right. But let's start a poll just to make sure that everyone is following along. And we will pause here until you guys are caught up.
And in this case, when we paste it, should we get rid of the outline thing?
The dash outlined, yeah, you still want to get rid of that.
Wait, where you paste it?
You gotta make a div under the subscribe.
Which I did it under. Oh, never mind.
Where who's lost and needs help?
Never mind.
If anyone has questions, feel free to shout them out now.
Oh, it's on the same line. It's in the same column. What I'm trying to say.
It's in the same.
It's in its own column.
It's in the same container, but it's in its own column.
It's in the same row.
Same row, same container, 3 separate columns.
Okay, got it.
And hopefully, if you're in your browser, you can take a look and say, okay, this is one column over here, this is another column here, and this is my last column.
And don't forget to get rid of that outline part when you paste it. When you get to the circle, you gotta
Go back to your code.
You gotta copy the span.
It's under material.
Like we did, yeah, like we did the other one.
Where it's
Yeah,
under
with the
material,
outline.
when you copy it, it's gonna say outline at the end. You have to get rid of the outline part.
Yep. Right here, initially when we copied and pasted the code, it said dash outlined, and that's going to make the word account circle show up, which is what we don't want. So all we did is just deleted out that dash outlined, and that's going to convert it into the icon for us.
I wonder why outlined is the default. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, well, what's even weirder is I don't mind that outlined is the default. I don't know why it's not the default in their documentation to pull that link tag in.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, Max.
Sure.
Okay, so on the code, right where, let's see. Okay, so you see where it says div col 6? The startup and menu column? Okay. So then, you know when you make that div, it makes the closing div automatically.
Yep.
I've already got that span, right? Am I erasing that closing div, or where is it supposed to go? I guess I'm a little stuck on that part.
Yeah, all you're going to do is copy or cut that closing div, delete it out, and put it down here instead.
Down there. Okay. I thought it was. I just didn't want to mess anything up. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Christy. You're not unmuted.
So the account circle. Should I share my screen?
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, go for it.
You're missing
So I take this. Wait.
Yeah, so that
I'm supposed to
see your closing div is still up there. It needs to
copy
be
this,
this div.
but I messed up something. Let me see.
Copy and paste. Oh, wait.
You're not sharing your screen. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you thought you were or not.
That would help. So I just copied it. Let me see. So
That's a good question.
where was I supposed to? Was I supposed to copy it here?
No. So, yeah, you're good.
No, I typed what you typed. I didn't copy from Google. So that's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure.
Yep. What you would have just pasted it inside of that col 3.
Outside of your project.
Right here.
Yep.
So in the span. So shouldn't.
No. What you have copied is the span. What you have copied right now is 26, 27, and 28.
No, just have that.
Because opening and closing div and then
So back on here, let's see how it says this.
Yep.
So because I typed it, it would have been easier for me to copy and paste it, but
Yes.
because I typed it, I still have it.
Yes. It's the exact same thing.
We took outlined out.
We took outlined out, but other than that, it's the exact same thing.
Okay. All right. So I want to start doing this part. So I got to incorporate this in my mind. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm caught up. I don't get excited just yet.
Go to the mobile news tab. Let's take a look.
Right here.
Yep. You're caught up.
Oh. Okay. All right. Let me.
Mine's not over.
All right, we've got 9 people voted in. If you have questions, if you're lost, definitely speak up now. Shoot a message to the TA. Shoot a message to me if you don't want to.
I think it's your.
I'm trying to fix my indentations. That's why I haven't voted yet.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
You've got a nice YouTube button in there as well. Let's look at your code. Okay.
Oh, that's Wayne Sharon. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Wayne, go ahead and unmute. Let's take care of your issue first, and then Scotty, I'll come back for you. I can figure it out.
So this one needs to come over here.
Yeah, so go back to your code. Do you have a col -3 or a col =3?
I swear it was a dash. It's just the simple killing me. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Scotty, you're up now.
Yeah. Keeps killing me.
Can you unmute? Sorry, I'm trying to find you to ask you to unmute, and I cannot find you. There you are.
Okay, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I was just talking. So I see where it's off. Honestly, it's like this div is not closing correct. Oh, hold on.
So 18 needs to come over, right? Because you opened a new div, and that's the first thing breaking the indentation.
Okay, so 17 should come over.
No, 17 is right, because that's a new div, right? So
a new div, okay.
So 16 is making 17 come over. 17 should make 18 go over to the right.
And then 20 should go over.
Well, 18 isn't right yet. 18 needs to go over to the right. Because every time you do a new div, it's got to come over, and you've got an extra space in there. So delete out the space before there.
Okay.
Delete one. No. Yep. Okay. Now tab. Okay. Now 18 is right. Now 19 needs to come over because you opened another new tag, the span. Okay. Now 20 needs to come over to line up with what it's closing. Yep.
Okay.
And now your end menu column needs to come over and
where it's supposed to start at.
There you go. You got it.
Okay.
Now your div col3 needs to come over because it needs to be on the same line as the closing div, and then just keep going from there. What I think you're going to find is that you've got more closing divs than you need. You should have 1, 2, 3 closing divs and a closing span at the end. So I actually think you're right. You've got everything correct. You just have to get your indentation correct.
Okay, so this div end of this should be open because it's starting something, right? It's on 29.
So never jump to the bottom. Always work top down. So get 26 right. So 26 needs to come over. And then 27 and 28 as well.
Okay.
And before I forget, your col3 on 25 needs to be a lowercase c. Okay. And now 29 is going to be much easier to line up because your 25 is in place. Oh.
Oops, if I don't forget my...
Okay, and now your 30 should be easy to line up because it's closing out the row.
Right.
Other way.
Huh?
Okay, and now your 15 is actually already lining up. So if you save and take a look at what that looks like in the browser.
Oops, not Greta. Sorry. Why am I missing? I think I'm hitting the wrong key.
You're missing an L in your HTML. Okay, now save Command S and go over to your browser.
This one. Oops, not that one. Sorry, I just gotta find it. I got a couple. There we go. I had a couple of them open. If I move this
all right, we're still...
Something is off still, yeah.
row, nav bar, call.
Oops.
Your spans. Just hit a Command R on there just to make sure. No, that's not the problem. 5500 index container. Oh, you've got an ID of row instead of a class of row.
I know exactly where that was at too.
Oh, look at that beauty.
Thank you.
All right, who's up next? We've got 12 votes in.
I was having a similar problem. My subscribe button is right under the menu button.
Okay, go ahead and share the screen. Like
yours looks like this, and mine looks like this.
Yep.
So looking at my code.
Call, span, div, span, call. I really like your class.
Oh, there it is. That'll do it. Sweet, thank you.
No problem.
Figured there was a typo in there somewhere, just wasn't sure where.
Don't worry, I'm not superhuman. Hours and hours in code will make your eye just pick up those little things that are off.
And can I just like say real quick how excited I am, y'all, because I get it. Like, this is the first day in the past 3 weeks where I'm like there, y'all. I'm happy. Okay.
I'm taking that comment
We have arrived. We have arrived.
Okay, I am there, baby. It took 3 weeks, but shoot.
Fill out your 30-second feedback. No. It's important to. I think it is as equally important to celebrate our successes as it is to celebrate our frustrations, right? Because to identify the frustration and be like, I'm not alone. Like, we're all struggling on this, right? Like, that's important. But it's also important to be like, well, if Tiffany got there or if whoever got there, then I can get there too. You know, like that's the just sharing in that, right? And being there and seeing that maybe if you're not there yet, someone else got there. That's the motivation for you to get there as well, right? It's so easy to look at me doing it and be like, no way, I'm never going to be able to do that. He's nuts. Like, he's a new level of master. But seeing a student get it and just seeing like, oh, well, I was at their skill level yesterday. I was working with them. They were stuck at the same spot I was stuck. And if something just clicked for them, maybe that click moment is not far for me either, right? And so
I think a big part that helps too is though like the screen sharing, because then we can kind of like see from everybody's different perspectives like what they're working on at the time. And sometimes like even how Christy was having the same problems I was with the extra set of parental set of quotes. It's like it helps because then you can visually see it. Okay, I'm not losing my mind. There it goes right there.
And isn't it crazy that we all have nearly the exact same code? It's doing the exact same thing in the browser, and yet seeing everyone's different code is what's helpful, right? And I totally agree with you. It's just this really weird thing of like the computer sees the same exact thing, and we all get the same exact output, but the way that we get to that output is different. And I'm working with a team of other senior developers, and we all write code differently, and sometimes my code's better than their code, sometimes their code is better, sometimes it's just different, and it's the exact same impact on the computer, but the way we go about it is different. And that will manifest a little bit more once we get into JavaScript and start getting into our full stack projects. But keep the sharing the successes and the frustrations going. That is totally why we do stand up, right? Is because we don't want to just live it in the moment. We want to go back to yesterday and go, what worked yesterday? What was the breakthrough? What success can we share? Hoping that other students also are either sharing in that success or are about to share in that success.
Comments are life changing.
Okay,
I was just about to say the same thing. Literally, I took my computer off mute just to say that, like, with the comments being in there, it makes sense. Like, okay, well, this say that's the start of it, so then the end should it definitely a lifesaver. I agree, Larry.
I agree.
Okay. So we are going to continue going unless anyone else would like to say quick fuck yeah.
I did. I was saying like a little bit earlier how like at first my confidence was like moving up and down, but then I hit like the top today when I figured it out. So I was like, all right, okay.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad we're hitting that turning point. Now we're gonna turn up the speed even faster because you guys are telling me you're getting it.
Oh Lord, no, no.
Okay, wait now, Max. Hold on, no doggone it. Wait a second. Speeding ticket before you even start. Time out.
Speeding ticket at 0 miles an hour. Do not approve. Okay. All right. So we're actually going to spend some time in CSS land. So we got all of our content in here. Our icons are there, but we're still a far way off from it looking like this. So let's spend some time. It may not look exactly like that, but let's spend some time in our CSS and identifying all of that. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach to this. I'm going to make sure that all of my HTML and CSS is marked up first. Then I'm going to go in and set up all of my CSS selectors, and then I'm going to go in and style each of those independent ones, right? So instead of thinking about this as styling each independent component, what we're going to do is we're going to leave a hook. We're going to go right out that hook, and then we're going to go style each one of those hooks. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say ID equals menu. And let's call it menu icon, just in case we have another menu down the road. Down here over at our subscribe button, we're going to do an ID and call it subscribe button. And I'm going to make sure I spelled subscribe right. And I'm going to do my final ID, but I'm going to be careful and put it on my icon itself. Now, I may need to go back and adjust that, but I'm going to say account icon. So now I'm going to come into my style, and I'm going to say, hey, I've got my menu icon. I've got my subscribe button. And I've got my account icon. And for all of those, that is all in my nav bar. Come on, Max. Fingers work.
Wow. That's okay that they're messing up.
Let's try this again. Copy nav bar, go back in, paste. Okay. Proof that I am human. Okay. So, first things first that I notice, this is all in blue. So that's the first thing I want to do, is I'm just going to say background, and I believe we've got a navy, so let's try navy. And I'm going to fix my indentation before I forget. Can come back over. It's blue, but if you look really, really closely, you can see my icons are still in there, but they're in black. So I just want to say, hey, everything inside of that is going to be white. Now, we could put white in all three of these, but the better CSS is to target it in the parent so we don't have to add additional lines of code. We're just saying anything in this parent and any of the children in it are going to be white. And we still haven't done anything in here yet. So I go back to my code, and they're now in white. Now, it is bugging me that those are right up at the top of the screen. So I'm going to add some padding because I want it to push the blue area bigger. I don't want to push the blue area and have a white space above it. And I'm going to say my padding top is going to be 10. And come back over here. And that looks good. But I don't know what I want my padding bottom to be. So I'm going to pull up my dev tools. I'm going to click on the little highlight icon here. I'm going to get my highlight right so it's got the entire nav bar selected and not just the menu column or the subscribe column. And then in my style, I'm going to say padding dash bottom. And I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say 10px and hit tab. And that is not going to do anything because padding doesn't do anything. Padding does. And now that's uneven. So what I can do is come in here and with my 10px highlighted, use my arrow keys and just bump down until it looks right. And now I go, okay, my padding bottom I want at 5px, not at 10px. So because I know that, I can come back over here now, add in my padding bottom to 5px, save, come over, refresh, and that's exactly the way I want it.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, I keep forgetting about it. And then it pops up again.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to do 2 more things, and then I promise we're going to break and let you guys catch up. So looking at my mock-up, subscribe is in a box. So we can actually do that. We could go to Bootstrap. We could go find a component for it. But a box to me just says that's a border. So let's see what happens if we go to our subscribe button and add a border that's 1px solid white. Go back to my Chrome, go back in here. Just like that, we've got our subscribe button added. And now the last thing I want to do to get that over is get this over to the right side. And in order to do that, I'm just going to go to my call 3 and add a text-end. And when we come back over here, we've got our little icon over on the left. And the last thing I want to do is that subscribe button is bothering me because I really want it up a little bit higher. So I'm going to try and see, can we do a margin top of -5px? Interesting. And then we do a padding top of 3px. So I just played around with that. I got very lucky. I was not expecting that to work. But what I can do is if I uncheck these two, it's going to make it look like I didn't write that code at all. You see how my subscribe button is just ever so more off the top than it is down at the bottom? I want to futz with that, right? I want to just tweak that to get it to look a little bit more right. So the first thing I did is I did a margin top, and I actually used a negative number. So that shifted it up. And I'm now looking at that and going, well, the space between the white line and the top of my blue bar is now correct. But this, and the space of my white line and the bottom is correct. But now my subscribe isn't centered anymore. So what I did is I said, all right, well, if the margin's moving the whole line up, the padding is going to move the words down. And so I added a padding top of 3px, and that little tweak is what made that subscribe button all of a sudden look perfect and centered and what I want. So I can just come in here and copy these 2 lines. Highlighting in inspect is always temperamental. Go back to my style and dump that in. I need to actually make sure where I was doing that. I was doing that on my subscribe button. So I'm just going to dump that in here, save. And there's my subscribe button looking the way I want it to.
Max.
Yes.
Is there a way to like show a pixel grid? Like if you were using Photoshop, you can show a grid to measure line stuff up with?
That's a good question. I feel like I have gotten a grid before. Show rulers. There's a ruler that you can use. Device frame. Pixel ratio. No, we don't want
I
that.
want to think of that, Max. I'll Google it.
That is a good question. I bet there is. I just don't know it, and if it isn't built into Chrome, you may be able to get an extension that would allow that to overlay onto it. Okay, I lied. I'm gonna do one more thing because I think it's gonna really pull the whole site together, and then I'll let you catch up. I really want my subscribe button to feel like a button, and when we hover over a button, it normally changes color, right? So I would like it so when my mouse is over that, the whole button is going to go white and my text is going to go blue. And so in order to do that, all I need to do is come down and add another subscribe button, and I'm going to use a special class called hover. I think we may have done this once before, but that's allowing me to target the button when we're hovering over it. And so I'm going to say, hey, when we're hovering over it, I want the background to be white and the text color, excuse me, not text, the color to be navy. So I'm going to save that, come back over here, and when I put my mouse over it, it doesn't work. That's because there is no hover on a mobile device, right? Think about on your phone, you can't hover over something, right? You don't have a mouse. But if I come out of my mobile testing mode, this looks terrible. That's okay, we'll fix that later. But if I hover over it, now it has turned into that different color and makes it feel a little bit more like a button. So we're going to stop there, we're going to let everyone catch up, and then we'll move on to the next bar. Leave my code up because we were largely in the CSS, and start the... let me stop my screen share just for 1 second.
Hey, Max.
Yep, go ahead.
So when I type in hashtag subscribe button :hover, it highlights it in red, like it's like a syntax error or whatever. It looks like it wants me to do hashtag subscribe button :space hover. Like, is that it looks like it's still working on the actual web page, but does that matter how I type it out?
Caitlin, do you do a space when you do your selectors with like attributes?
I guess, is it the space between the colon and the class? Or is it a space between the colon and the word hover?
The space between colon and the word hover. If I delete the space, it shows up like it's like a spelling error.
I've never done it like that before.
Neither have I. I would ignore that. I've always not done a space there. So I'm kind of confused as to why it's highlighting that. Unless like subscribe is spelled wrong or button is spelled wrong.
Is it looking for, let me try something. Give me a second.
Take the space.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, oh yeah. So it without the space is how it should be.
Just a setting to stop that from happening. Yeah.
Who's sharing the screen?
So yeah, having it without the space is making it not underline. If you look at my code, mine does not have the space after the colon.
Oh, so it's okay.
Hold on, Zach, you're muted.
Go to in Zoom, click on the arrow next to your camera to open up the settings.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, so you have it right, Zach, without the space.
Yeah. I wonder if it was doing that before you put anything inside of it, because it will yell at you for having an empty selector.
Yes, it will.
Or empty rule. Sorry.
Well, even if I like put the space in and then like take it away again, it still like shows up as red. Like it's showing up as red now, but I don't think it works on.
Share your screen again. Sorry, I stopped you.
No, you're good. Like right now it's red.
Oh, that's just part of your
on
theme.
Here.
That's just part of your theme. So attributes will always show up as red. Yeah.
Okay.
The red squiggly is totally different. Like a red squiggly or a yellow squiggly is like a warning or a wrong. The red in the attribute is just making it easier for you to pick apart your selectors.
It's because the hover is a pseudo class. It's not like a true class, so it's differentiating between your class and the pseudo class.
Correct.
Sorry, I totally misunderstood what you were saying about red.
So did I. Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
good. Okay, I'm going to relaunch the poll just to see where we're at.
Do any of you guys need help or you just catch me?
I have an FYI.
Yes.
When you are typing in CSS, if you click on, when you start typing, if you click on, it puts all the punctuation in. So, FYI, for those of us who
Okay, we've got 11 people caught up, which I think is good. Any questions before we move on?
I do. Can I share?
Yes, you
for
can.
1 second, because my site is looking.
All right, let's go to your HTML.
Okay. All right. We're just gonna move you down there. Oh no, there we go. All
Okay.
right.
And you are on the right. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so first things first, we've got our call 3 subscribe button, and then we put nothing in it and close out the div.
Where's that at? Call 3 subscribe button. Wait, it's that div is not supposed to be there?
Correct.
This one? Okay.
And what you may find is it's as simple as that. Save and take a look.
Okay. Let me check. Oh my God, there it goes. Okay. Thank you.
And then just a reminder, if you right click in that white area in Chrome.
Yep.
And go down to inspect.
Yes.
We are in the mobile device mode, which is taking a second to load, but if you click on this icon right here.
Yes.
That's going to put you in mobile mode, and then if you click on this right here.
Okay.
You can click on this one right here, and that's going to move it to the bottom.
Ah, okay.
If you want it there, you can adjust from there. And then the last thing I want to just go back over is this responsive thing up at the top. If you click on that.
And that's where I can see it. Okay.
Yep, you can pick whatever your iPhone or whatever device you want to be testing with,
cool.
and that's going to set it. And then I lied. One more thing. You can adjust the zoom up here. So if you want to zoom in and have more of a scroll, you can go up to like 100 or whatever and adjust the size from there.
Yep, because I'm a little blind. All right, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Hopefully that was a good review for everyone of how my screen looks the way it does. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. I think everyone's kind of caught up. We are going to go get our top bar working. So our next section, we're doing top stories, news, sports, life. Hopefully this is very much a review. I would not be mad if you went in and copied yesterday's code and just dropped it in, but for the practice of doing it, we are going to do that from scratch. So, first things first, most important thing, we've got a ton of divs here, right? So we need to figure out where is our div going to go. We don't want it in our menu column. We don't want it in our subscribe column. We don't want it in our account column. We don't even want it in this row, but we do want it inside of this container. Right? We want a new row beneath the row we were just working in. So I'm going to...
sharing your screen.
Now I'm sharing my screen. Okay, sorry. So we don't want it in any of the columns. We don't want it in this row, but we do want it inside this container. So I'm going to click on div, and it's going to highlight my closing div. I know I want to be inside that container. The other way of doing it is clicking on this div row and seeing that that div is closing out down here, or just reading my comments and saying this is the end of my nav bar, so I know I'm going to go in the middle there. So I'm going to hit enter. My indentation is going to be right. I'm going to add a new div. As soon as I hit the closing tag, it puts in my closing div. I'm going to hit enter. That's going to get all my indentation right. And before I write a line of code, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say start of links, and then I'm gonna say end of links. I'm gonna just get you guys a sound button. You're not sharing your screen. You're not sharing your screen. Just a quick fire. Okay. Now I am confident that that's where I want to be, but I'm not so confident that I'm not gonna test. So I'm
Matt.
yeah.
Nicole has a question.
Shoot.
So on the end of your div, of your span, is that comment supposed to be there, or is it supposed to be on the end of the div because it has div on it?
Good catch. Okay, so here, before I do anything, I want to test and make sure that things are not breaking on my site, that I didn't do something wrong. So I'm just going to add the word test here. I'm going to come in. I'm going to go to my browser, and test is showing up where I want it to. Okay, so I'm going to do a kind of a similar approach. I know that I'm going to want to be able to target each one of these independently. But because they're all in line, right, they're literally in a line sequentially, I'm going to use my span tags instead of using a div, because the divs are going to make them wrap all onto different lines. Now, I could use a column system here, but because I just want them all equally spaced in the center and I'm going to add some padding to it, I'm not going to bother using that column system. That also means I don't even need to use a div row here. I'm just going to, because I'm not putting any columns in it, I don't need to use that class row. So I'm going to add a span, and I'm going to say top stories, news, sports, and life.
Okay, I'm not understanding how come you have so many extra divs.
How you have extra divs or I have extra divs?
Yeah, where did you? Because I only have 3 divs in a random test at the bottom. So I was trying to figure out how did you get those 2 extra divs on the bottom.
They're the ending of the.
Correct. Yeah. So I didn't.
What are those divs?
In between.
Yeah. So all of the new code that I added is right here. So before we started on any of this, I had a closing div for the container. So when I started writing new code, I didn't go down at the end of the divs and start adding it, because I don't want it outside of my container. I want it inside my container.
Okay.
So that's why I went here, I hit enter, and then I opened up my new div and did all of that work.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, whenever we add new stuff to the site, the question to ask yourself is, where do I want this to show up? Then let me go find that closing div and put it inside of it. The question isn't, oh, let me put it down at the bottom, because I still want everything inside of my container. So I'm going to save. I'm going to go back to my browser. And they're there, but the first thing I notice is they're not lining up. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to add a class to text center my links. Okay, now they're in the center, but we need our styling, right? So I'm going to add my ID here, and I'm going to call my ID links bar. Save, come back to my style. Now, 2 things to note. I didn't have to do anything to my menu icon or my account icon. So it's bad CSS practice to leave selectors in with no styling in them. So all I need to do is just delete that out and delete that out, because I didn't end up using them. And the more proper thing would be to go back to my index and also delete out my IDs, because we didn't end up using them. So that's just a little code cleanup thing. You don't necessarily have to do that. But I'm going to add in my links bar, and I'm going to say, hey, I would like a little margin on the bottom and the top of it. And I said margin, I meant padding. So let's just assume, let's try 5 to start. And then I would also like, in my links bar, go target all the span tags in it. And all of those span tags, I would like there to be a margin on the left of 5. Nope. Padding's going to be better because they're inline items. Padding left, 5px. Padding right, 5px. I'm going to take a look at that and refresh. That doesn't seem to be enough for me. So let's try 10 and 10. That doesn't seem to be doing anything. So let's go into our dev inspect. Links bar. Look what I missed. A capital B in my CSS. So let me go back there. Okay, now they're 2 spaced out. I was right at 5. Let's try that. 5, 5. Okay, that's looking good. Let's go back to our mock-up. Now the only other thing that we're really missing is the top stories and that orange bar beneath it, right? So I'm gonna go rogue, and instead of making top stories my active link, I'm gonna make sports my active link. So I'm gonna add an ID there, and I'm gonna call it active link. I'm going to go to my styles. I'm going to say, hey, in my links bar, go find my active link. And we're going to make that font weight be 700. And we're going to, font weight is bold. So font weight 700 is the equivalent of saying bold. And then we're going to add a border to the bottom of it. That's going to be 2px solid and orange. And come back. My sports is there, but I don't want my orange bar right underneath my sports. So I'm going to, for my active link, I'm going to add a padding to the bottom of 5px. That's going to push that bar down a little bit. Now all I'm missing is that final kind of line there. Now we're actually not going to put that in because we're about to put our image in. There's not actually, if we zoom in, there's not actually a line there on mobile. All that's there is that image that's anchoring it. So I'm going to get my image in, and then we're going to stop for the night, catch anyone up, and hopefully get you guys out of here a couple minutes early. So let me get my image in, and then we'll call it. I'm going to go back to my files, and I happen to have that image. I don't have that image. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Unsplash. And we're going to pick a pretty image. This looks pretty. We're going to hit download free. That's going to put it in our downloads. I'm going to go to my downloads folder and just drag that into VS Code. And then in VS Code, I can just rename. And I'm going to say this is like my headline picture. Going to go. You want me to do that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm going to delete that. Delete that. And delete it from here. Delete it from here. Okay. I went to Chrome. I went to a new tab, Command T, and did Unsplash. I came in here. I grabbed an image, preferably an image that is not super tall, right? So we're looking for like a portrait image. Not a landscape image, although the portrait one would work as well. So I'm going to click into the image and hit download free. Then I'm going to close out of Unsplash, go back to my VS Code, open Finder, and go to my downloads. I'm going to grab the image from my downloads and drag it into my VS Code file area. That's going to pop it in here. I'm going to right click and go to rename. And call that headline. I'm going to close that, go back to my index.html, and now I'm going to ask myself the same question. Do I want this image in my links bar? No. So I'm going to come to the end of my links, but I do still want it in my container, and I'm going to do a new div there, because that's a new section of my website, a new division of my website, and I'm going to add my image source is equal to headline.jpg. We're so close to letting you guys catch up, I promise. We're going to add a class to that says full width. And we're going to take our full width class, go back to our styles, make a new full width, and say that width is going to be 100%. Come back in here. It's going to spite me and not work. Full width, 100% would help if I save my index. And there's my image. Now there's a little margin on that, but that's okay. That's coming in from my container. I could override that if I wanted to. But I've got everything kind of showing up the way I want, so I'm going to call that a win. I actually am curious to see. Can I... No, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so if you get up to this point and everything is working, you're good to go. Get out of here or stick around and help other students. I'm going to paste this code in live share. I can find where my Slack is. Live stream week 2, day 3. There's my HTML. There is my style.
Quick question, Max.
Yes.
On Unsplash, what kind of photo were we supposed to be checking out?
Any landscape photo. So anything that doesn't have, like, this is a portrait photo and this is a landscape photo. So whatever photo you want to use is completely fine.
Okay, thank you.
Before I let everyone go, I want to create a different poll.
Can you go back to your other HTML on the live share real quick first?
Yep. I just want to look at this really quick. We only have a couple more things to do in here, so I think tomorrow we're going to finish this up, and then continue on to making our responsive site. But let me put that there. Is this what you need?
Yes.
Cool. Like I said, if you are caught up and you've got your picture in and your nav bar and your links bar done, you're good to go. Get out of here. This homework assignment won't be due until, well, homework isn't due until Sunday, but don't turn this in yet. Don't turn this in until tomorrow, because we're going to keep working on this and finishing it off. So I will go update that in Canvas and move that to tomorrow's outline. But do not turn this in yet, because we've got some more work to do on it tomorrow.
Oh. The container has padding, Max. That's why. I had to look it up. The Bootstrap container does.
Yes. Yeah, and there's no easy way to fight to get that outside of there unless we close the container and open a new one.
Yeah, it's just a gutter, basically, it looks like.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you can't negative margin outside of that.
The interesting, oh, well, the nav bar. Huh. Rows have negative margin, it looks like.
They do. So if I put that in a row.
Yeah, that it should work. Sorry, it was bothering me. No.
No.
Weird.
Oh, but now I've got padding on it. So now can I negative padding it?
Maybe. Yeah. Fun.
Now if I take the row off, can I do that?
No.
No, because it doesn't have it on there.
That's very interesting.
Okay, well, if it's really bothering you and you want your image to be full width and not have that negative space around it, this is a little hacky, but if you add a class on it called row, and then add a go to your full width, you can add a padding on that of 0, and that will get it to be full screen. But that's totally optional, and you don't have to do that. Putting that back and updating outlines for tomorrow.
Wait, what did you change to 0?
Yeah, so we added a class row onto our image. Yeah. And then in our style on our full width, we added a padding 0. And that's what got our image to be full width.
Why do you have to add the row? The image itself just can't?
The Bootstrap class has, so the Bootstrap container has basically like a gutter. It has padding on it, but the row does not. The row has like a negative padding. That's why the nav bar goes straight across, because it's in a row, but the image wasn't in a row. So if you add the row and then take away the padding or make it 0 on the image, then it will spread the width.
And that is why we never use rows outside of containers, because the containers have a built-in gutter that are offsetting the padding built into the row. And so the container is kind of like a symbiotic relationship to the rows. And technically, like, I get why they did it. It just is a hard concept to teach.
Yeah.
So you were saying, where should we get the landscape image again? From Unsplash?
Unsplash.com, yeah. And pick whatever image you want. It doesn't have to be the one that I used. Or it can be one of your own. Tiffany, go ahead.
Yep. So I found the image and I downloaded it. And how do I get it into VS Code? I see that there you've got something that says headline.jpg.
Yeah, so you're going to go to Finder and navigate to your downloads.
Okay.
And then just drag and drop the image into VS Code over here on the left side.
Okay.
And then once it's in there, you can just right-click on it and go down to rename and name it to something a little bit more friendly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
My next question will be.
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
My sports won't bold. It's not bolding.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Besides the bar on top, I'm sure they have some without the bar. But what's the difference?
Oh, you can't share your screen until I stop. Okay, now you should be able to share your screen.
But let's switch. And I said, what's the difference?
Probably not too much. As far as what things to do, so. But I like the Pro.
And I think
They already have it.
Airs are newer. Like I got a Pro in 2020.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got your span ID active link, which is good. Go ahead and save that, and then let's look at your style. You've got an extra pound sign on 24. That's causing problems. And then just go back to your HTML and make sure that links bar is all lowercase.
Oh, really?
Yep, go back, and you're using all lowercase. So you're good there. Just save your style.css and see if that fixes your problem. There you go.
Always one. Killing me. Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Stop your screen share. Danielle, you're up next.
So, just,
I need help resizing my image.
Sure. Go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
Okay. When I go live, it's like the image is on the whole page.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh. Hold on.
Okay, now you are. Let's see your code. You've got your class full width. You've got your colorful. Everything looks good there. Let me just do a quick check. You've got your div. End of links. Okay, let's look at your style.css. And you're missing your full width class.
Okay. All right.
You had it all.
So if you just go at the end of 31. So at the very bottom. You can delete that out. We ended up not using that.
I missed that step.
And then delete your extra curly brace on 31 so it doesn't cause problems. And go ahead and do a period full width.
No. I'm gonna keep myself to like one. Yeah, I don't know.
And curly braces.
That would actually be.
And enter, and then do a width : 100%.
Because sometimes you're not ready for it to save, and if you save it.
And save, and see if that fixes it.
It just, yeah. It sounds good now, but it's not really that.
You can tell when it's.
Did you do like a text something, like a text highlight for your sport?
It's in the span.
This mine? Which one's Matt?
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Then you go to your
Okay, Max, I have a problem going on in my style CSS. My border button won't turn blue, and I have a red squiggly line under my semicolon.
Okay, it's normally a problem with the line above it, but go ahead and share your screen and let's take a look.
So you did one of your CSS, and you want to take both of them?
You're missing a semicolon on the line above it.
Oh, duh. All right, let's say this and see if this works properly this time. Okay, hold on, I got a lot opened up.
And all that, and then you put that on the
Sorry.
on support.
I think it's
Yeah,
command
because I
shift,
do.
'cause I use my right.
Yeah, I have so much open. There's a lot going on. Close that out.
It's gonna be one of your
I
mobile
lost it.
newses
Oh,
there.
how about to say, did I lose it? Okay. All right, so is still not giving me that orange.
Okay, so okay, so your 8 is the squiggly, which means there's a problem with the line above it usually.
Or any file, you can have 4 files that have.
And the subscribe button.
Yeah, so 8 line 8's got your squiggly. What's the look above it and see if anything looks wrong above it?
That's a good question.
Oh, it's missing
The odd characters.
Sure is.
Using, like, it comes with time, but
Save and check.
yeah, I got
if I can find it again.
Just hit yeah, there you go.
Oh, gotcha. All right, and then hit refresh.
Okay.
So maybe it's something in my HTML.
Yeah, so go to your I noticed you've got a links bar with a capital B and a links bar with a lowercase b, and in your HTML it's lowercase b. So just change both of them on line 20 as well. Change that to a lowercase b. And I've got a feeling we're about to see orange. Oh, so close. That fixed a couple other things. Active link. Okay, go back to your yep. And active link, you've got a capital L in your ID there.
Okay.
Save.
There we go. Thank you.
internal develop.
All right. Oh, you're up. Go ahead, Zach.
Something like that, but it has like an eye.
If I want the image to be smaller, how do I center it?
That way, and then
Just put a text center on that. Whoa, we didn't put a column on there. Try a text center on the parent div and see if that does it.
a lot of features.
A text dash center.
Tracking and it's more of like a like people use it in a work environment. You have to like subscribe to it and have licenses.
So it'd be div space text dash center.
Oh no, sorry. Div class equals text dash center.
It's easy to use. Like if you could use VS Code, you could figure out things on Visual Studio, but it's in the platform.
And you use it for.
Do I have to delete the row and replace it with text center, or do I put a separate pair of parentheses or a separate
Great question.
class?
It's gonna be a separate. You do a class equals quote row space text dash center close quote, and then close your arrow div.
I like it better for that simple that stuff.
Okay.
I use Visual Studio at work for C# applications, like .NET applications that we use a lot of .NET applications.
Caitlin,
There.
stop saying dirty words like C# and .NET.
.NET, C#.
You said div class equals quote row space text center end quote.
Yes, text dash center.
That's not working for me.
Okay, share your screen. Let's take a look.
Applications, and I use VS Code for React.
Okay, before taking this boot
In terms of code, MySpace.
Okay.
That was my level of knowledge. But in all seriousness, yeah, that's it. Technology wise, I was like always doing things from
Go to your style for me. We're gonna go old school, and see if this works. Add a new line at the end there.
also was like craving
And do margin : 0 space auto.
for, and like I love the kids and it's so great.
And semicolon.
I was not happy because I keep
So that's a very old school way of doing it. I'm not sure if I should still be teaching that way or not, because the more correct way would be to flex it. but basically when we do a 0 auto, it's saying 0 is the top and bottom, so don't add any padding to the top or bottom, but auto automatically figure out and center the margin and have an equal margin on the left and on the right. And so that's an old school way of centering block elements, is by doing a 0 auto. I'm sure there's a Bootstrap class that we should be using for that, using like D-flex and align center or flex center or something like that. But 0 auto is I mean, obviously it still works. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way either.
Does that make the padding 0 like obsolete or redundant? Like, can I delete that out of there, or does that need to...
Yeah, you can, because you're not going full width. So yeah, you can get that 0 out of there. Yep. Yeah. While I am fully qualified to teach front end, I am also like the curmudgeon in the front end room, and like I rage against like CSS Grid and Flexbox a little bit, and I'm like, no, you can build sites faster without it. But at the same time, Flex and CSS Grid are like very powerful CSS tools that have been around for 5+ years now and are becoming the dominant way to do dev. But I'm just the old man going, margin 0 auto still works great. So, you know.
It just like wasn't a thing, and
all right, yep, I'm sticking around. Christy, you're up next, but if you've got it working or you don't have any questions, feel free to jet out of here. We've got a little work to do on this tomorrow. We're going to wrap up our responsive news site. We might maybe start Netflix tomorrow, but we'll see where we're at. But a little bit more work to do here, and then we'll be finished up and good to go. All right, Christy, what do you got?
What it looks like. Let me see.
All right, so yeah, go to that comment in your code.
After a while, you memorize the color.
Mouse.
And you're gonna find that comment is missing an opening arrow.
I never coded the whole page. I copied and pasted. When you just copy and paste it. I never went into
24. Missing, look at the start of the comment. The comment, not the div. On 24.
Oh.
Yeah. It was like having your own website, but I don't know. It was.
And save, and let's see what that did. Good to go.
Okay.
How long have you been at your job?
So should that picture be this humongous?
Yeah, we're designing it for a mobile screen right now. So when you go into mobile, it won't be that huge.
I was doing like.
But for now, yeah, it's fine for it to be that big.
Okay.
An internal.
Thank you.
No problem.
That has like a lot of our
Wait, that stop? Okay, yeah.
I stopped you.
Okay.
Yes, echoing Shantina's comment. Awesome job, everyone. Feels like it's starting to click a little bit more. Feels like we're finding the computer just a tiny little bit less, which is huge progress. Anyone have any final questions before we bolt out of here tonight?
Yeah, Max, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
Yep.
Proficient at, and then they started, then I was exposed to C#
All right, so see how here where we have the link of the selector for the links bar class ID and the active link ID.
Yep.
So is that saying go anywhere there's an ID of a links bar
and an ID of active link inside of the links bar?
Okay, and then that's what it had that.
Correct.
That's really big level. All right, thank you.
Great question. And technically, because active link is an ID, we should never have another active link on the page and shouldn't need the specification of the links bar. But if we broke that rule and accidentally put an active link somewhere else on the page and wanted that active link to look different, adding that links bar is just making the selector more selective. No problem. Great question.
Wasn't a lot going on at that time. And then
Last chance for any other. Oh, Nicole, go for it.
and so we were transitioning our old. I can't get my website to be bold and black.
Okay, go to your code.
A .NET MVC backend.
Okay, so we've got our ID active link, and let's go to our style.css. And your active link is there. Your font weight is there. Nothing looks wrong there. Okay, active link, links bar. Go back to your HTML for me. Your links bar has a capital B in it, and in your CSS it has a lowercase b.
Okay, so you want to change it to that?
Yeah, that's probably the better place. On 31.
Okay.
But that doesn't. Oh, that has a.
And what is the back end that they teach? Is it Node?
Node.
Oh, interesting. If you. Oh, that works too.
I don't know. I just know
I
the word.
don't think we use it on a daily basis anymore, honestly. I'm kind of rusty. So, I'm just gonna do command edit again. I'm not really I've been rusty on it.
So your
Used it in so many months.
if row full width
Look at the concepts that you
end of
learned.
container. It's interesting because your bold is working, but your border is not.
No,
No.
not really. Like the orange, right? Where's my orange? I don't know how to describe.
Great question. All right, go back to your CSS.
I don't know. I guess it's complicated because we have very large like what did I do? databases with a lot of tables. There's lots
You're
of,
good.
like,
Just click on CSS. Start with CSS. Border
that data
bottom.
so that it can talk to the front end. And so that's what we use then.
Links bar, padding bottom, 5px, border bottom, 2px solid orange. What'd you do? You broke it.
I know, right? Maybe I spelled something wrong. I'm right. So it's C#.
Oh, go back to your index.html and save. Maybe you've got something in there that's not saved.
It's definitely like no. I just did a command Z because I thought I clicked something before.
Nav Bar.
Text center, links bar, news, active links, span, row.
Definitely learned.
In a couple of years.
I'm gonna take over control because I don't know what's going on.
Okay. First year because of COVID.
Another thing too.
Just hit OK on that, and then I want to look at your.
Upside down, yeah. So it's just straight.
So I'm gonna try deleting out your image, and there it is. It's like underneath your image, and that's what's causing the problem.
Okay.
So my question is end of links.
Break. Span. Put a span in that. Can we put it in that div class row? Put a span.
Or like in full
Or make that
width,
a
probably
span
like
inside?
98 or like 97.
Div container. No. All of this is right.
So I'm saying in
So
in the
which-
style CSS in the full width, I can make it like 95.
Well, that's gonna be well. The quick fix would just be to push this down. So if we push this down by 10 pixels and refresh, now you're gonna see your orange going on there.
Did you push down?
Okay.
The margin.
The margin, yeah. I added a margin of 10 pixels to the image, and that's what pushed it down.
And that really worked. Thank you.
I don't know why, though. There's got to be something different between my CSS and your CSS that is causing... Yeah, I don't know why yours is why your image is on top of it and mine isn't, but that fixed it, so we'll just leave it there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for tonight?
Wait, can
Stephanie?
I have a question?
Yeah.
Let me share my screen because I'm trying to figure something out or trying to make sense of it, and I think I'm almost there.
Okay.
So here's my code.
Yep.
What I was trying to understand is, so see how this is like div and my text so that it
Yes.
shows up here?
Yep.
Could I technically do this? Because I'm trying to understand which would be correct.
It sounds like
Yeah, so you would want to combine it. So you would want to put your row on the text center.
Every single day.
So yep.
Could I just do
Yep. And then delete out your div on 39 and 41. And that would be probably the closest to the like syntactically correct HTML.
Oh, yeah, because I'm over here just entering the different ways and it's still showing up as hello. So I'm like, well, and centered the way that I wanted to. So I was just wondering which would be the most efficient and correct way to show up, even though all three were working.
Yeah, so this would probably be the most correct unless you wanted to style your div, unless you wanted to style your hello separately from your image, at which point you could either make that a separate div or put a span on it. But this is the closest to, because you don't need to style your hello any differently from your image, putting it all in the same div is perfectly fine.
And then if I did add span, then it would be its own div container, or
no, you could just add span around the hello.
Okay, so like right here, for example, I could just do that and, well, put this in there. But...
Yep. And then you could add an ID or a class to that span and then style that however you wanted to.
Okay. I'm just, like I said, trying to make sense of things.
No. It's a great question. And I think it's one of the examples of like, there is no right HTML. It's just a matter of, does it show up the way you want it to? And if it does, then you're all set.
I did something.
Put a BR tag at the end of your hello, and that's going to make the image go down onto the next line.
Okay, and then that would still be like the cleanest way of doing it?
That makes a lot of sense.
Depends who you ask.
It didn't work though.
Oh, maybe you do want two separate divs there to make the image act as a block element. Yeah, I would just go back and close out that div, take out the BR, and just make it two separate divs. So enter on that line.
Okay.
And close your div. And then do enter and just do a new div in there.
Okay. Oh no.
And then you need to put your class row on the headline div.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Although, why isn't your hello now centered?
Yeah, that's... I don't know what happened.
Ha.
Oh,
okay. That works. Don't touch it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, really, there is if it's showing up the way you want and you don't have more divs than you need, then that is perfectly fine, acceptable HTML code, in my own opinion. I'm sure there are people who would fight me on that and say, that's a terrible way of doing it, but again, qualified to teach front end? Sure. Should I be teaching front end and be going more in depth? Yeah, probably.
Thank you.
No problem. Last chance for questions. Okie doke, I'm heading out of here. You guys have a good night. I will see you tomorrow.
One second.
Yep. I'm here.
I can't find the mouse.
We're here. We're still here.
Okay, mute.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. There you
Okay,
go.
yep. Okay. Nicole, what's your question?
No, it's Strange.
Oh, Shanjay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna try real quick. My hover is not coming up. I don't know why, and I've been looking really hard.
Sorry, Shanja, you're off the screen and Nicole was muted, so I got you two flipped.
I mean, I'm gonna unplug the speaker and everything, and you can just use your laptop.
Yeah, that's fine. And you guys are welcome to head out if you want, or stick around. I don't really care. Can you stop your screen share and restart it with all of desktop 1, just so I can see what's going on in the browser? And I'm also going to ask you to unmute. Oh, you are unmuted. Okay. So let me see it in the browser.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Max?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, I can hear you.
Go to the browser.
Okay.
I'll stay here till you're done. I'm taking that advice on.
And go to your code. And the only reason hover isn't working is because you're in device mode. So because you're on a touch screen, so you have to come out of it down here.
But this is reality though.
And now hover over it and see if it's working.
Oh, no. Okay. Boom, 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 boom.
So yeah, it was totally working. It's just that because you can't hover on a touch screen, Chrome doesn't let you hover in like emulator mode.
Okay, right. Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
I was hoping it was that. All right. See you guys.